All right, cool.
Hello, everyone. We are live. We're here in 7 Days to Die, where we're going to do some 7 days and some dying. But first, hang on. I rewound time last time, so we can't have that. Boom. Oh, no, that's not what I wanted. Set time 6 0.
Oh, that was a thing that happened.
There we go. All right, everyone. Now we're back on time. We're back ready to go. And we're getting close. We got about, we got about 36 hours until the Horde night. So I'll make it 3 a.m.
36 hours until Horde night. Okay.
So as I have said previously on our joint streams, I will not be helping them prepare for Horde night. I have tasked my party with preparing us for Horde night, building a base or refurbishing a building into a base that will survive us the Horde night. I will not be helping them, and it will be their task to do that. So yeah, this feels like a great idea. That definitely will not go wrong.
We're
Jack,
so excited.
You don't have to say like yes or no, but can you give me a vibe on if I would be safe in my current spot?
No, not a chance.
Are you sure?
You would be dead in approximately 5 seconds.
Really?
Here, I'll show you why.
Oh,
I see.
Oh, I see. Truly spectacular. I like that everything turned into stones. This is a very interesting development.
Those aren't stones.
That was by far one of the funniest things I think I've seen in a very long time.
That was?
The Minecraft meta will not work. I was testing.
No.
I was learning. If somebody could kill this zombie behind me because I'm naked and afraid right now, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you.
God.
I got you.
I was just gonna watch, to be completely honest.
Okay, we're good there. We're good there. I don't need this dynamite. Someone else want this dynamite?
Nah, put it in armor or ammo
Get
weapons.
that away from me. Yeah.
To my chat, I feel so rude. Hi guys, pleasure to see you tonight. I'm here with Drew and Jack and Tater, and we are on Horde night soon. Jack has said out of the grace of his heart that he is willing to help us entirely through the night and does not plan to abandon us in any way, shape, or form. This is what he said. I heard him say it. So if he does anything other than that, it is a betrayal. And that's okay, because he's a cat of a man. So like,
he just killed me.
Doesn't really care. It'll be great. But yeah, it's vibey. Oh, and for people asking, Florida was fantastic. I had a great time. I'm a little burnt, a little peely, but grappling tonight in class got rid of most of the skin.
Oh.
So we're good.
Yummy.
Don't like that.
Yeah. It makes this protective layer in my uniform of dead skin cells. So when people grab me, they just slide off.
Oh.
Hate that. Hate that. Hate everything about that.
Thank you for
I also
sharing.
ripped off my toenail a little bit ago.
Hey,
So.
why are you like this?
Because I am a lifelong martial artist, and scars are stories.
Okay.
Great. Cool. Yep.
I'm happy for you.
Thanks.
So happy. Okay, so are we bunking together? Are we trying to build something together or separately? What's funny?
You should try to build something together. I mean, you can build it separately if you really want. I will probably end up building something separately from all of you.
Jack.
I call making my house out of straw. If anybody else wants brick, that's fine. I'll take straw.
Jack, this is a swim together, sink together kind of situation, buddy.
Oh, okay.
You are in this.
I'm here with you
You
guys.
are in this with the gamers. Whatever we build.
I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you. I understand.
All right. I'm picking up wood. That seems like a thing that I should do.
Yeah, you should probably go
gather
chop down some
resources.
trees. Yeah.
Oh, I'm chopping.
You do.
Oh, I'm chopping.
Big job.
Just
And
stole
drinking a
Bente.
bunch of caffeine at 7:10 p.m.
Whee! In the stitch.
Oh, wow. The poll was right.
What?
Tater was the first to die.
Yeah, because you killed me.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
you made poor
it
decisions,
seems
and
like
I
he,
need to.
it seems like he taught
I
you,
forgot that they
to
were
be
faster.
completely fair.
It's a learning.
I
I forgot
like-
they were
opportunity.
faster. I forgot that I had a bat. I am forgetting how to play this game.
He seems like he's doing great. Nothing I could have done to help him in that situation.
You guys have fun. I'm gonna go do a quest.
Send it. We'll see you later. All right, guys. So I feel like Tater should probably be de facto leader.
Yeah, that seems
during
right.
Horde Night.
That seems fair to me. Yeah, I don't see any problem with
I have
that.
never seen.
No.
I have never seen Tater do anything that might get us harmed, and I trust his judgment entirely.
Now,
To be fair,
yeah,
I was just gonna say most of my deaths are Jack shooting me out of a helicopter.
that
now.
is so that is fair. I mean, how many deaths does Tater have? Tater has 11 deaths. Okay, not quite that many.
Why does Jack have a helicopter?
Oh, because I spawned in some bullshit last time to
I'm
just be
sorry,
difficult.
I have 11 deaths.
Amazing.
What have I been doing?
Dying.
Wow, yeah, I've been getting slaughtered.
How many deaths do I have?
Bensei, are you sure about your selection for leader?
Ben, say you have 2 deaths.
Okay, that's not
That
bad.
said, you did miss last session where a lot of us got a lot of extra deaths because of Twitch chat, Twitch integrations.
Oh, is that turned on this time around?
No,
Twatch.
we need to let you guys actually concentrate on getting ready for a horde, and not.
Oh, thank you for the jewels, guys. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Will
Not a goofs,
chrysanthemums
not
help
gaffs.
us?
Will chrysanthemums help us? I mean, they make
Yeah.
red tea, but no, we don't need more of them. I've already gotten plenty. Yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
do I already have a question?
if you get some on your way to getting wood, that's fine. But you need wood more than anything else, Tater. I need you to get wood.
Getting
I already have a quest. That's silly. Silly me.
So wood is fine. You can also upgrade blocks beyond that with cobblestone. Cobblestone is made by having both stone and dirt. 1 stone, 1 dirt to make 1 cobblestone. And you can further upgrade blocks to concrete by making concrete mix, but we probably will not have access to concrete mix. Or at least in any...
Weren't gonna help us.
In any amount. Well, even if I were helping you significantly.
Yeah, we wouldn't have it in time.
Yeah.
My goodness.
All right.
I might
so
help you get some more stone.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna need more stone.
My plan is to
Yeah.
build concentric rings of wooden blocks, like
Sure.
50 blocks thick, so they have to eat through all the walls to get to us.
You can also...
Hey, Tater, completely different question. Have you ever seen Attack on Titan?
No. Why?
Okay, great.
So
Spectacular.
you can also make spike traps. Be aware of that. Spike traps are a lot more expensive, though. Hanley for hire. It's Twatch partner. Thank you very much.
It seems like nobody was
Triples.
really excited about my concentric ring plan.
I think you
I'm
know what? I
excited
think it
for it.
works. I have a question from my chat that I need to answer real fast. First off, I'll make a video on this. Second, how effective would a meteor hammer be in a zombie apocalypse? Fantastic question. Thank you so much. A couple of genuine thoughts about this. First off, since I can make it out of just about anything as long as I have rope and something of sufficient mass, I think it would be extremely versatile, is the first thing I would like to say.
Yeah.
Second, I think it would be perfect to improvise at a moment's notice, so I'm probably never really going to be without it. Third, I don't know if you've ever seen what happens when I smash a rock into the side of a ballistic skeleton head, but it goes in.
It's pretty good.
So I think it would work really well. Here's the problem. 1 or 2 zombies at a time, probably fine. 3, and I become zombie food. Right? When I get
But you've also got
overwhelmed by
rope to get away
numbers,
from the zombies.
It helps, unless for some inexplicable reason, the meteor hammer gets stuck in a rotten corpse that's walking.
Yeah.
And now I am stuck to it, and I either must ditch it, or
Yes.
I am lucky enough. Yeah, it's bad. So it
Yes.
will work. Let's be clear. Zombie apocalypse, Bensei is having a meteor hammer on his person. It's quiet. It is a good stealth meteor hammer weapon, or a good stealth zombie weapon. I will also have some Eskrima sticks made out of ironwood, because those will also work great. And a spear.
Yeah. Spear.
Also, if I can find one, a gun. But that's not for the zombies. That's for everyone else. Anyway,
Bensei, I put a screen capture of your video with a gun on your dummy. I put a screen cap of that in a video I posted a while ago, and I have gotten so many comments going, "Is that Bensei with a Glock?"
Yeah. That was so funny. I loved that. The unhingedness of that video. Now, here's a question. Ben, did they not let you post that to TikTok?
they did not care.
Interesting.
Really,
Okay.
it went up on everything.
Great.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't care. I remember back at the beginning of TikTok, and if that would have happened, I would have been banned out of existence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now they're just like, whatever.
Their sponsors don't care.
Yeah, I still have videos from the early days of TikTok that are still under review.
Awesome.
Brother, what?
Yeah, from 2021 or 2022, a video of me with a chain whip because
That's
TikTok
insane.
used to hate the chain whip.
That's so wild. Are you bringing one of those, by the way?
Yes.
Nice.
I'm so excited.
Do you guys know who Electro Boom is?
Yeah,
by any
I
chance?
love Electro Boom.
Yeah, I put a clip of Electro Boom in one of my videos. Like a clip of him, and I got a YouTube community guideline violation
Yeah.
for showing like
Yeah.
dangerous and harmful behavior.
Yeah.
Sure. Of course.
do.
Of
But
course.
I got the clip on YouTube.
It's fine.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
fine.
really insane.
Fuck it, whatever.
Also, Jack, your compliment about me putting us putting that shot in the Louvre. Thank you.
You're welcome.
First off, where'd it go? Where'd my game go? Did I crash? No, it just disappeared. That's crazy. Anyway, second, it's one of the most liked comments on that video.
Oh,
Good job,
nice.
Jack.
I'm gonna go back and
Very well
go
done.
back and look.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotta go back and look.
That is cool.
Why are we becoming Stewie? What is happening?
Because sometimes you gotta be Stewie Griffin. What you got some problems, Taylor? You got some problems with that? What's wrong? What's wrong, Taylor? You don't like it? You don't like it? Come on, you're having a tough day. Taylor, you want a soda? Hey, buddy, you doing all right?
Guys, I know we're supposed to be working next week, but I'm so excited to hang out. Like,
Yeah.
Me too. I miss you guys. I miss you guys so much. I'm so excited to hang out. It's gonna be so fun.
Season 2 just doesn't even get filmed. It's just us shooting shit.
It's just vibes.
forever.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Now Tater, I understand that you're leading us in this venture, so I don't want to stand on toes. However, it seems like there's a really nice large open flat space for us to build in, right next to the shop area.
Yeah, so I'm seeing that.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know how I ended up in charge of this. I want to make that clear.
It's the funniest choice.
I feel like barricading ourselves in a building, that feels like a easier option than building from the ground up.
Okay. Sure.
Am I crazy
agree
for
with
that? Am I
No,
crazy
you
for
are
that? Okay.
currently crouched and sprinting, by the way.
Am I really?
Yes.
You might be crazy then.
No, but this is crouched.
Yeah. You were
This
that.
No, but this.
Buddy, I can
What?
pull the footage. I've got
What?
it. I'm looking.
No.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, we
What-
are filming season 2.
Not confirmed yet, though.
It's not guaranteed.
I sure hope it is.
Shut up.
Sorry, I can't help myself.
You are for the drama, aren't you, King?
Just a little bit.
Me too. It's guilty, but I love it.
Bensei, what house do we think looks like a nice place to spend the final moments of our life?
Sure.
Do we like this one?
I mean, give me a second. I'm currently mining a brick. That
I
felt
think
good.
you could
All
just
right.
pick that up. I don't think you had to
Honestly,
do all
I
that.
could. No, you're good.
What are we thinking here? What do we?
Give me 1 second. Oh, you're good. 1 second, my loves.
I just took damage from bonking my head on a lantern. That's not a lantern. That's a light bulb. That's what you call those.
Those one of them electro lanterns.
Yo, what's up?
What's happening right now?
I'm sensing some plotting.
I know.
No. Thank you. No. We had a student that is missing their keys and they cannot find them.
Oh,
so
no.
I was relaying that I don't know where those are.
Who would almost lose someone's keys? That's crazy.
Yeah, that'd be
That's
wild.
kind of
Surely,
wild.
surely not me.
Whoa,
would do such a
whoa,
thing?
what are you? Whoa.
Not
I
my
got this-
chat walking in or seeing my dad walk in to ask that question and saying, "Are you winning, son?" And it's
Oh, boo.
oh, it's bad. Okay, yeah, Tater, I like this building. I do feel like everyone should have one of these. So I think that if we bolster up our defenses in this house, it's the best we're gonna get for the night.
Yeah, all right. I like that. I like this.
Yeah,
We have selected
Okay.
our house. Jack, you can come look. You don't
I'm
have
not.
to tell
I'm not
us if
helping.
it's a good...
I'm not. Oh, I already looked. Don't worry.
He's judging you from afar.
Sorry, block?
Can I mine?
Sure.
What is happening?
This is
It's
Minecraft.
just mining
after all.
I can't. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. You guys don't understand. Oh no. Okay. So for those of you that know are online, Echo. For everyone else, I got Raven to start playing Minecraft.
Huge.
Dude. No,
So
it's
excited.
so bad. It's so bad. She's a Sims girly. So she's like, wait a second. I don't have to like choose from prefabbed. I said, no, my love. You could just build it if you want to build it.
Oh, yeah.
And she's like, oh, okay, got it. I made a realm so that she could play when I'm not. I come back and she has dug the back rooms into a mountain. Like she is just like, she has started strip mining everything. And she's like, I just wanted to see how big I could make it. And I'm like, what happened? What are you doing? And I'm like, oh no, where did she put? Everything's organized, guys. It's worse. Everything's organized. We have chests lining the walls. She made 40 furnaces. She's like, I don't know how many we'll need.
Sounds like she's doing great work.
I'm in so much trouble. It's so bad. And I love it so much. I'm like, uh-oh. I made a monster. So, yeah, Minecraft stream tomorrow night, everybody.
Cool.
I'll be playing, and then Echo's going to hop on. And I would love to start a min-max server for that. That would be fantastic. I've got realms already, so we can make that happen.
Okay.
It'd be a silly time. Okay. Anyway, back to the pressing matters of we're all going to die. Thank you for the donation, W Dono. Can't wait for season 2 of Min-Maxed. Hey guys, you hear that? People are excited for Min-Maxed.
What's min-max?
What's yeah? God damn it, he beat me to it.
Yeah. I got you. Okay. All right, I'm back from my trip. Were we building this sucker?
The defenses are pretty much done, I think.
Oh, do you? I mean,
I got this pretty much set over here. I'm not gonna lie. Like, you guys can do what you want, but ain't nobody getting through this one wall.
Who am I to question Supreme Leader's decisions?
You got a few holes there, man. Look at this. You got it.
Yeah.
Is anybody running spears? That's Clark's thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
there are
I
a
got
bunch
a
of books
book
to be
for him.
read. There are a bunch of books to be
What
read
is
in the learning chest, in the
Why
books and
is
sellable
this?
chest.
Look,
Nice. Got it.
Andrew, what do you feel when you look upon this defensive fortification? Is it
Kindergarten.
confusion? Is it what?
No.
Did
Child.
you say Hindenburg?
So,
He said kindergarten.
Tater,
first
here's
of
the
all.
thing. Here's the thing, Tater. You need to actually upgrade these,
Yeah.
because this does shit.
What
To
if I put
upgrade them,
more of
use
them?
your stone axe. You hold right click, and then you upgrade them. That's how you do it.
And I know this house has like has a garage that's not so great.
Also, you can go get a claw hammer from the tools chest, and it will only take 2 taps. Or
Oh,
you
that's
could get
pretty
a
nifty.
or you could get a nail gun, and then it only takes 1.
All right, yeah, Jack.
I'm
Since you're
not-
not allowed to help with you're not allowed to help with
Yeah,
the planning.
right, yeah.
But we can put you to grunt labor. Get
No,
over here.
yeah, no, that's all you, buddy.
Yeah,
is
you
all
think
you.
the black cat energy over there is gonna do it?
No, that's
You think
fair.
that anything about that man says, "Yeah, I'm gonna build. I'll do the manual labor." No, his job is to look pretty on stage.
So the funny thing is,
let's
I
be
actually
clear.
usually do build my horde bases, my party's horde bases anytime I play this game.
That's amazing.
So that's why I foisted it all upon you. It's all you.
Respectable.
Yeah, I think so.
Do we have a vantage point to like shoot things from and like get zombies off of us?
That's why I've strategically built the wall in such a shitty manner. So there's lots of places
I
you
see.
can stand on.
I'm blockading the garage in the back just so they can.
Great, yeah.
They have some more to chew through.
How do I craft more than 4 blocks at a time? What do we?
The
So-
number counter.
Yeah, when you go into crafting, you'll see a little number 1 underneath what you're crafting. You change that number to how many you want to craft.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really
That's
should've been-
really nice to know. I'm gonna make 104.
I really should have been upgrading these blocks. As I
Yeah.
was going.
Yeah, you level up fast. Also, you've got some squishy centerpieces there.
It's like a firm exterior and then like a soft gooey
Yeah,
center.
you know,
and then
it's
our
like-
flesh is the soft gooey center when we're getting eaten.
Yes, correct. Wait, hang
People
on.
in
What
my
did
chat
the
are
Hunter say?
telling me
Anyone feel
Huh?
like Jack is setting Tater up to fail on Horde Night? No.
Oh,
he would
what?
never do
No.
that.
He
would never-
That's not a
Surely,
thing.
We're best friends.
I got to play Super Smash Bros. Ultimate with Jack this weekend.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend, and I've never seen 2 people form an alliance against me faster.
And
I don't
also,
know- I don't-
literally without saying a word.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
like it was unspoken. We were all playing. It was 3-person Smash. We're all playing the game, and then they hit me up in the air, and they both just stand there watching me, waiting for me to land instead of fighting each other. Like,
That's disgusting.
I've never seen an unspoken bond be like grown faster, and it was specifically at my expense.
It was truly hilarious. I think what made you truly realize it was when I accidentally hit your girlfriend, and I was like, "Oh, sorry," and you were like, "What? Why are you sorry?" And I was like, "Yeah,
I'm
no."
sorry.
Why are you apologizing for playing the free-for-all fighting?
I also need to stress that Tater still won some matches.
Right. Which is impressive.
Yeah.
Who did he play, Steve?
Ganondorf.
Ganondorf and King K.
you're
Rool.
Ganondorf. Okay. I remember the King K. Rool. I was just curious how he won.
What you need to understand about Tater,
Ganondorf, big sword.
you need to understand about Tater is possibly the most rage-inducing player to play Smash against if you're not prepared for it. Yeah,
mean?
Tater will take you down with him. He will kill you once, and then he will use stupid Ganon shit so that he just grabs you and takes you both off so that you both die, but because he's got the life lead, doesn't matter, you're dead. This is how Tater plays Smash.
Yeah.
I love that, actually. Dude, if we could bring, like, a Switch with us
Oh, Tater's
to have
bringing
a
it.
night where we... Bet. Oh, my God, bet.
If anyone has some extra Switch controllers, bring them. Because
I
Taters
do, and
are
I'll
rough.
bring... Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
One of mine makes you teabag, like it has stick drift and just forces you to constantly teabag.
Nice.
One of them is broken because I was baby raging as a 20-year-old against a
Toon
Toon
Link.
Link, I think,
Yep,
and I
yep.
threw my controller across the room, so it's all taped together.
I understand.
And then one of them works, and that's the one I take, and I give everybody else the broken ones.
So
Right.
I looked up a tier list of Smash Ultimate players or Smash Ultimate characters. Really was expecting Link to be higher than Sephiroth, but oh boy, Link's down in D tier.
No,
That's
Link is
insane.
doo-doo poop water. Like, it's pretty bad. It's
Which
rough
is-
out there. Did you see?
Which is so funny that I was doing so much better with him than I was with Sephiroth.
Right?
Did you see where Ganondorf is on the list?
Oh yeah, E, like bottom
Yeah,
tier,
everyone.
bottom of the bottom tier.
That's insane.
I'm sorry, my axe just broke because I wasn't paying attention. That's quite interesting.
Yeah, you got to repair it with,
Also,
with stone.
huge ups. Thank you so much, Triples, again for the donation. I appreciate you. And thank you for reminding everybody to like the stream. That means a lot. You guys are so sweet.
I'm looking for a rock. Where are the rocks?
You got to pick one up off the ground.
It's been forever since I played Smash Bros. I played.
I'm hungry. Forgot.
Axe time.
I played Ike because big sword.
So, question, and he's probably not going to tell us. Is there a chance the zombies spawn inside the house and it's technically a level?
No.
Okay, great.
Someone in my chat said something concerning, and I didn't. Sure. I couldn't figure out like what the counterplay to that was, so I ignored it.
Sure.
Can the zombies dig under my wall?
Yes.
And Jack, pray tell, what would a young man do about that situation if he were to?
So, I don't think they'll intentionally dig underneath it, but like if there's not enough structural support, like they can just like knock it out by knocking out the dirt underneath it. So
that's kind of insane.
I have a proposition to my fellow gamers.
Yeah.
We just fill the entire first floor blocks.
Yeah.
How are they going to get to the second floor?
I agree. Triples asked how many of you are streaming.
Oh,
yes.
Right? Andrew, you're streaming now, yes?
Yep.
Yes.
Yippee!
Andrew is streaming, your favorite IT guy. You've got Jack.
I'm streaming Drew Uno because it's the gaming channel.
Drew Uno, got it. Drew Uno?
Yeah.
Drew Uno. Are you on YouTube or are you on Twitch?
YouTube.
YouTube. Okay. Tater, are you on YouTube or Twitch? Twitch. Jack is on Twitch as well.
So I should point out also, when you have your building blocks out, if you hold, what is it, R? No. Yeah, if you hold R, you can change the shape of it, and there are many, many shapes. You may want to explore said shapes.
Oh, could have made this look way better.
Yeah.
This feels like he's trying to tell us something.
No, just like I was like, oh, I should make sure you guys know that. And
We
you
should
can
quickly ignore all the advice.
I would never ignore helpful advice, for the record.
I do like the pyramids everywhere.
Yeah. Thank you, H. Marrier, for the dono. I would love to try and do a live stream during min-max while we're all there. I'm thinking like a cute little Q&A vibe.
Not gonna work. Yeah.
But I think that's gonna be rough.
No.
The schedule is gonna be.
Yeah. I mean, we won't be able to live stream gaming, but
right.
I have no idea what that's going to look like, and I would imagine most people are going to be trashed at the end of the day.
So I'm going to say it's too much work and it's too much mental stress.
I agree.
To do it.
Not only that, we only got hotel Wi-Fi or dark hours.
Yeah, hotel Wi-Fi can be good. I've streamed on hotel Wi-Fi, but it's not a sure thing.
It's a crapshoot.
Yeah.
Can zombies climb?
No,
they can climb ladders.
Okay.
And they can jump one block in the air. Except for spiders. Spiders can jump, I think it's 5 or 6 blocks in the air. I forget how much.
What the?
That's crazy.
So, Jack, when you say spiders, what does spider mean to you?
It's a weird. So it doesn't look like a spider. But it's a very creepy zombie that crawls around kind of like a spider. It's still a humanoid.
Sure.
But it's officially called a spider.
Sure. Got it. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't mean to take those pills.
Yeah,
brother. It didn't work for the cop, and it doesn't work for me. Okay. Like,
oopsies! I didn't mean to take that pill. On a pill related. Oh, that's not a good transition.
No. It's
gonna say.
My cat has become a pill popper, and I don't know what to do about that.
Oh yeah, because the fish oil.
Yeah, she got into some fish oil pills and ate 3,000 milligrams of fish oil, and like reeked of fish for a month. But now she thinks any pill-shaped thing is a fun snack, and so she shredded a bunch of probiotics the other day.
Cool.
Which was pretty cool.
Bye, lizard.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now we have to guard all of the fish, or all the pills in my house, because if you leave any pills out, my cat will take them, and that's not good.
Have you tested every pill?
Well, I don't want to because my cat will perish.
Okay, well, I mean, if it's a large enough dose, you have to be responsible. Like, only leave out as much as she can handle. You're the conductor. Hey. You make sure that she doesn't OD.
Bitsy, stop making sense, all right?
How tall of a wall should we have?
Can we get on the roof of this house? Was my question.
I think we can make a way to get to the roof.
Oh god, I'm cold.
You're gonna have to make a way that you can get up to the roof, but the zombies cannot.
So it'll have to be from inside the house.
What are you building?
Not necessarily.
Don't worry about it.
Okay, all right. No, I'm gonna worry about it. What are you building there?
Well, I'm trying to.
That's spiky.
I was trying to make something, a little modern art exhibit. Oh, it's kind of working.
Ow! Ow! Ow!
Well, we're trying to survive a zombie apocalypse. He's making art.
Why does that happen?
Is that?
Ben said you need help.
No, it's okay. I just learned about the physics of this game, and I was trying to chop down a power pole to use the wood from it, and instead of it falling down like everything else does, it fell down in pieces and crushed my brain.
Yeah, the gravity is a thing. Like
Gravity's a thing, but
things need to be
it
connected to
doesn't
the
seem
ground.
Yeah.
Unless you build
But, like-
very, very specifically in such a way to cheese the game and make a weird-ass
Sure.
floating base, which you can do, and I have done, but it is a bitch to make.
What is this?
I definitely trust that everything is a guideline, not a rule.
Why is this game also a architectural simulator?
I
Yeah.
don't know, man. Someone asked, also thank you for the donation, Dane Bramage. Great name. Can you still make wood blocks instead of those basic plywood building blocks and save yourself time?
You can. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I think that's what I've been doing by default on accident.
Yeah.
W Dono, thank you so much, and fantastic question that might save us some time. Thank
So
you.
the danger with making just wood blocks is you cannot remove them after you place them. So once you place them, they're there until you destroy them. Whereas building blocks, you can place them and pick them back up.
Okay.
Where's my torch?
Also, you get experience for upgrading building blocks.
So is it better for experience gain to do the basic and then upgrade?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's obnoxious timing wise, but understandable.
Yeah. I mean, you guys still have plenty of time. You got a full ass day beyond this.
Okay.
Oh,
well,
okay.
Yeah,
Do
it's
we-
not like they're showing
so-
up tonight.
When making new shapes, we select our shape. How do we confirm selection?
So let me pull it up. So you hold R, you go to shape.
Yep.
You let go of R, and then you just click on the shape you want, and then hit escape.
Escape. Ah, I see.
Oh my gosh, I chopped down a tree, and the amount of force that it fell down with was astonishing.
No, that's not at all what I wanted.
Guys, I'm not so sure about these fortifications, so I'll be quite honest.
Hey,
Why do you say that?
Hey, you're our commander. I need you to be confident.
Bensei, have you looked out in the street to the front and to the left of our house recently?
I've actually decided not to because I did once and didn't like how it made me feel.
Okay. I was wondering.
I just want you to know I'm stopping by to see what this house looks like momentarily, and I'm very excited for it.
I'm so excited. You should be. Nothing bad. All good.
Great.
Glad to
hear it.
The
The inspector is here to check on our work.
Luckily,
I can't help but notice
Inspector Gadget.
none of you have gotten the claw hammer out of the tools chest.
that's
I have
correct.
one.
It felt like a lot of work to go get the hammer.
Okay.
Bye, Demon Smasheroni. Thank you for stopping in. I appreciate you greatly.
Demon Smasheroni. That's a great name.
I have the coolest followers. They're so cool.
So
They
good.
have such funny, silly names, and I adore every single one of them.
Okay, so good news. We can get on the roof just fine. I'm so excited.
Okay, big bet. How about the zombies? Can the
Yeah.
zombies get on the roof just fine?
No, you can only access it from the inside.
Can you
As long as
put
they don't
your
get
like?
inside.
Can you put yourself into the headspace of a zombie through method acting in order to check if they could figure it out?
Okay, yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah. And
And are you on the
The
roof?
problem is that I'm on the roof. Yeah.
Well,
I-
see now
I
I'm
started
worried. Now I'm concerned.
I'm gonna upgrade some of this stuff because I still think I still have some. Yeah. Do we want stone? Do we want to go to
yes,
cobblestone
always.
level?
I mean, that sounds like a thing that would help us.
Maybe.
You do hear the min-maxed crew, my lovelies. You do. I'll leave it up to you to guess and see which ones they are.
Ah.
You'll never guess.
That's right. True fans will know.
Ah.
Only the realist of fans will know.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
Do the trees grow back in this game, or are we just aggressively deforesting this area?
Yeah, they grow back. So every tree that's mostly fully grown you kill, you get 2 seeds, and then they'll grow back.
Ah,
So,
I see.
yeah.
And if you've just been throwing the seeds away?
Sure.
Yeah, you'd have to really work to completely deforest the world.
Okay. Heard.
I should probably go down from up. That's what.
Oh, wait, hang on. I forgot to get something. Oh, that's good to know. Yeah, I don't need that thing yet.
So are we just gonna build across the front door when time comes?
Yeah, that's what I was kind of like night 1 of Minecraft, where you just sort of like build a little hole and hide in it.
Oh
Yeah, that sounds like a good call and actually something that I'm down for.
Yeah, so that is the extent of my planning. We are so cooked. I just want you all to know that. Yeah, like
No. I have faith in you. All right.
Now, here's a
Don't
question.
misplace
Have
my
you
faith.
thought about how you might try to, like, kill the zombies while they're showing up?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
I was actually just
such
working on that.
confidence.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I sure have. And I'll thank you.
Yeah.
Remember that.
Of course.
Wow, these take a long time to build.
We probably how long is the night? Because we might need to stock up on food and stuff.
Yeah, you will.
Oh, we'll be fine. Nah.
Okay. I'm sorry. You're right. I'm overstepping my bounds, sir.
It's called
You're in
fasting.
charge.
Yeah. I don't want to see any food in here because it'll attract the zombies.
Right. And fasting makes you quicker.
Yeah. That's why they call it fasting.
Yeah.
Oh.
You ever heard of
Fun
Freddy
facts
Fazbear's?
you never thought you'd learn.
Now, if I were a trap, where would I?
Yeah.
There's so many
Such a
good
loaded
jokes
question.
to finish that out.
I know, it's such a
Dude.
Are you looking in your crafting menu?
No, I already built them. I was
Oh, okay.
deciding where to place them.
I love your artwork, Tater.
You like my art?
Yeah, I was questioning it. I'm no longer.
I put a lot of work into that.
I see that.
It's cold, but if I
Oh, does a
have
sledgehammer
sword,
do
it
more
doesn't
to
hurt.
rocks? I think I have a sledgehammer.
No, I think so. I think it does more, but you get less yield.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
have to put on a red
How do we make cobblestone again?
Such a good song.
Stone and dirt. Or clay.
Okay.
Case and Bates, I see your homemade meteor hammer. I'm excited to see what it does. Tag me in the videos when you post them. I always look.
He does,
If you post a video. If you don't.
I'm always impressed at how much you actually. Am I digging ground? No, it's stone. Okay, good. I'm always impressed at how much you actually interact with your community. I had to find time.
It's hard. It's unbelievably difficult. The trick is to be lonely.
Goober.
The trick is to be very lonely.
Yeah, it's usually when I can't sleep or I have insomnia. I'll start going through all the. I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for
even if I can't comment back to everyone, which I used to do. I used to answer every message and leave a comment response to every comment I got.
Oh!
Yeah, and it became unfeasible. So now I make sure that I give likes to every comment that I get the chance to read. That I think is worthy of a like. There are some trolls out there, but yeah, it's always seen. They're the
Like
reason
Tater.
I get to do what I
Tater's a
do.
troll.
Yeah, Tater's fine.
I try to be so nice online, in person, but
Mid, honestly.
Yeah!
We put up with him because he's a good DM.
Did you just do a tater noise?
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah!
Yeah.
We inspired a
The
community of
tater noise.
Yeah, it is the tater noise. Don't you ever get that twisted.
I didn't realize that was a thing that I did, and then I didn't do it in a video like early on when I was starting to make videos, and everyone got mad in the comments that I didn't make the noise, and I was like, oh, I guess that's what I do now.
It do be that way.
That is,
It
yeah.
you. Yeah.
Yep. Tater
That's your thing.
identifies as
Blueberry pie.
we have apparently inspired a small community of streamers to collab internationally for 7 days weekly. Congrats, guys. We're making things happen in the world because of who we are.
Yippee!
Are you talking to us? We did that?
Yes, we did that. This has been
That's
informed
crazy.
to me by my community. Kinetic Shock. I hope you're part of it. And if you're not, I hope you can make your own.
I'm gonna eat raw meat.
Eat
My
raw
guy,
meat?
there is so much food in the cooked food.
Yeah, but I've been listening to the Liver King's advice about optimizing your testosterone.
No, no.
You make me sad.
Oh, God.
You know what, Tater?
no.
Go to town. Have fun.
That's right.
I mean, it is survival of the fittest, right?
That's right.
At a certain point, I don't know if you call that fit.
Hang on, I gotta reload everyone in so I can turn on permadeath.
Okay, yeah, that sounds
What?
good. That sounds good. That sounds good.
Why?
Sorry?
What?
It's important.
I'm sorry. What?
No.
Jack, my chat has a question for you. Would you field a question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool, great. What's your favorite faction to play in Total War Rome 2?
Rome.
Rome.
Because
Okay.
I'm a basic boy.
Because I'm a bear.
My cat's name is Scipio, and you think it's not going to be Rome?
Jack, I have another question.
Yeah.
Do you want to field another question? How
Sure.
do you pick a spike trap up if you put it down wrong?
You don't. That's the neat part. You don't. Tater, this is good news. Tater, you can be a stick. Tater, stick that stick, and then don't pick it up.
There you go.
Tater, don't hit it with your dick on that stick.
That's correct.
Oh.
Let me see if it still hurts. Oh, it still hurts. Ow. Yep, we're good.
Owie.
Hey, thanks for the 4 people who are on my stream. That's so nice of you to be here.
Let's go.
My stream. Go over to Drew's stream.
Everyone,
No,
go.
don't do it.
Everyone,
Do
go. Go lurk in Drew Uno's. Actually, no, don't lurk.
Yeah.
Go talk in Drew Uno's stream.
Go
No,
get
let's
Drew's.
go.
It's
Go
fine.
get Drew's. I
No,
know
no,
you
no.
guys
At
love
Drew
it.
Uno.
I know you guys are here.
I wasn't trying to do that. I was just very
Go,
excited.
No,
that
this is what's
there's 4
happening now, Drew. It's okay. It's okay. This is good for you.
I feel
It's good
weird.
news.
Drew, this is
news.
good news.
Go blow up Drew's stream. I love you guys. Thank you for joining me. You feel free to hop back in when you feel like it, but Drew needs it. Go send it.
I don't.
I'll see you guys tomorrow for Minecraft. I'll be playing for a while, and Echo's going to be joining later. So yeah.
You want? Are you doing what is it? Java or Bedrock?
Bedrock.
Whoa, huh?
Yeah,
I know.
I had something stuck in my throat. That's my bad. I wasn't
I
judging
like
you.
Bedrock. Is Bedrock bad? What's wrong?
What? Everyone's used to Java because it's the OG.
Oh, ew.
I was gonna say I have a Java server if you want to hop onto it, but no,
I would love to. That would be a pleasure. I have both. I just prefer Bedrock because I like all the fun, cool stuff in it.
I don't know if this comes as a shock to you, but I really like Redstone.
Yeah,
That
me
makes
too.
a lot of sense.
Me too.
Yeah.
Huge fan.
What were we doing? I forgot. I was trying to get. You're right. You're right. Just like Updog.
The only redstone I ever build is a zombie catapult to throw zombies at my friend's house in Minecraft. That's all I
That
do.
makes a lot of sense. I make
Yeah.
Hyperion cannons. I'm a menace. Like, I'm gonna Mac round you from all the way over here. Thanks
What's
for
the
my
what,
Halo nerds.
what are the chests called in this game?
Crate.
Crate. Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
Something crate.
That's great.
I just see iron. Oh, wooden storage crate. Got it. Cool. Rock
Okay.
on.
Our house now looks like a Minecraft house.
Like a really bad. It looks like the little brother Night One
So,
wooden
yeah, it's
cube
the
house.
one.
It really does.
I'm so excited to see what this looks like.
You're not.
No, I'm not, but I
didn't
am.
Finish. I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
finish the walls, and I got bored and started doing
yeah.
something else. So like the walls are not done, guys. I just want you all to be aware.
Sorry, I don't have any donations or anything set up, but I appreciate you. I appreciate the thought.
I mean, you still have
Oh,
like
yeah.
36 hours, Tater. Nah, more like 29 hours.
Yeah, but I'm kind of liking what I'm working on now.
1738.
I'm like, hey, what's up, hello? Sorry.
How does one rotate a bedroll? Is that a what button is that?
Left click.
Left click. That's
Yeah.
that places it. Oh no, I see.
Back on the grind.
Scipio, you getting some food?
Oh, buddy, you too?
All right.
Okay.
Bensei's cooking over here.
We need
Holy.
more wood. I call the attic for sleeping.
Okay, that works.
Do we need a bedroll in the house?
No.
It's not a terrible idea, but to be honest, if you die up there, chances are you don't want to respawn there. Well, I mean, you got to get your backpack, so.
Still
You
gonna
know,
get
we'll
her
see.
stuff. Yes,
Yeah.
right. You're right.
What is
I need to get more wood.
Oh, Scipio.
What
Welcome, my boy.
is going
I'm
on
gonna make a
here?
storage crate and start gathering supplies in it, just inside the house.
Oh no! People
Am
are
I-
talking about redstone in a way that I do not understand. I am terrible.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Oh. I know how to make
Right.
fireworks happen when you walk inside. You know, that's
As long as all of the zombies are 3 feet or taller, this spike wall is gonna go crazy.
my people
if
in
they're-
chat. Can you handle that question? Keep going. Sorry. There we go.
Wait, we were talking about something. What happened?
No.
Transition
Yeah,
back.
I was letting Tater continue talking because I didn't mean someone
What?
sent another donation.
Scipio, Scipio, stop hitting my
No.
camera.
Scipio is the best little idiot.
He really is an idiot. But he's the best.
But he's
little
the
idiot.
best.
But he is
But
the
he's
best
the
little
best.
idiot. Mm-hmm.
Wow, we did just deforest this like whole half of the
Yeah, no, I'm like quite
Oh,
peeved with how far I have to run to get wood now. And I could just use my bicycle, but I don't want to scroll 2 inventory slots over to get my bicycle out.
Why don't you just leave your bicycle on the ground?
I don't trust myself not to like forget where I put it.
It's on your compass.
There's other things on my compass though, and I feel like I'll get them mixed up.
Hey guys,
Yeah.
What's up?
can we have a group huddle real quick about who the team leader is?
It's Tater. We already did what I thought we.
I just wanted to say that I was really proud of him being the leader, and honestly,
Yeah.
I'm really impressed with his work.
Yep. Have you seen the front of the house? I've been cooking. Go walk up, hit the wall in the front of the house. Go ahead, try it.
See if it
You
works,
won't.
nerd. The energy that brought. Menacing. I need to eat.
Can you build a
I mean, that's
trebuchet
pretty
in this
good on
game?
the back.
Can you build a trebuchet?
Yeah, I was like any sort of catapult, siege weapons,
No.
anything like that. That's quite disappointing.
You can build like
Still,
robotic
there's beyond
turrets.
I feel like I have a headache, but it's only in my eyeballs.
Oh,
Is that a thing?
let me check. my
The
Yes.
ocular migraines are a thing. I get them sometimes.
Yeah.
yeah,
But
Is that all
usually-
caffeine
yeah.
related?
that is caffeine related.
It is.
Tater.
It can
if
be
It's that.
dehydration.
Oh, it's Tater. That's caffeine related.
Yeah.
That's, you know.
It can't be dehydration. I drank 3 Powerades today.
No, no.
Yeah. You got to drink water too, though.
Yeah. Also,
Hey,
fun fact.
I'm sorry.
Be real careful with Gatorade and Powerade. You don't need that much salt.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Let me just check my Powerade ingredients here real quick. Number 1 ingredient: water.
Sure.
That's how that works.
Sure.
Oh
That
man, I didn't know that.
Am actually not surprised in the slightest. Yeah, that seems
Yeah.
like standard procedure. What level are we all? I don't know how to check that.
I am.
Jack,
if you
what
press
level are we?
I, you can see I'm 39. Drew's 26. Tater is 24, and Bensei is 13.
Woo! So obviously I'm the highest. It's like golf.
Yeah.
I'm winning.
God damn, we go through
Yeah.
wood like crazy, man. Is there like
Yeah.
a wood generator we can wood? Oh, my chat's happening. Ah,
There it goes. Good job, guys.
Is there a wood
like
generator?
2 months been watching.
Is there,
Bit of a
Jack?
multi-device.
Can we make
What?
a wood farm? Can we make a wood generator?
No, I mean like you can make a tree farm.
Okay,
I usually
alright.
do that.
But
I usually
there's
just
no way to,
plant
like-
a bunch of trees near the base and wait for them to all grow. Takes about like
Sure.
a day or two in game.
Okay.
That's exactly how
Hello,
real trees work, by
everyone.
the way.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah,
actually.
yeah. Yeah. It takes about 36 hours, and you have an old growth forest on your hands.
Dude, I wish. That'd be cool.
We are getting requests to play Baldur's Gate again, but this time with mods.
I have a mod that I would like to add.
Yeah. Shut up, Tater. Specifically, there's another mod for Withers that works with the Big Naturals mod, which is Drag Queen Withers.
I mean, I was gonna add the mod where Withers gets renamed Bone Daddy.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
actually
Yeah.
super down with that.
I think that if I were to become a drag queen, I would consider that as my name.
That
Bone
actually
Daddy?
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Bone Daddy.
I might run with that.
That's fair.
Weehoo! Yes, Hades, can you go outside? Go potty? I'm just being stared at by my dad.
What is? How do I build this? Oh, I have to learn. I have to read books to do that. I ain't fucking doing all that.
That's a lot of words.
Just a lot of reading.
I am getting close to the point where I could make us a pump shotgun, but I'm not sure that I will get it in time to make one. I can currently make a level 4 double-barreled shotgun. The pump shotgun is about 20 times better.
Ooh. Okay.
You know, being able to hold 7 shots in your shotgun instead of 2 before you have to reload is
Pretty
is
fire.
handy. Yeah.
All right. I have storage inside the house now, and I'm going to fill it with junk.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
Why does making things take time in this game? Why can't it just all craft instantly?
Reasons? I don't know.
This is killing me. Can I
No one's
move while
responding to you.
crafting?
is it?
Oh, yeah.
No, I cannot. No, I cannot.
What are you crafting?
Don't worry about it, Jack.
Suddenly, I'm worried about it. I don't know why.
I mean, like, and so there's
You
this nifty
you should
thing
be able to
where-
move while you're crafting, Tater.
Oh, well,
What?
maybe I was just pushing the wrong key. I would never push the wrong button in a video game and have
You
it
don't
mess
do
with
that, right? So like, there are these fun little moments where Jack can't help himself but be curious about what we're doing. It's part of Jack's nature as Jack, and you turn him down in those moments. I fear that maybe a more
I mean,
dialed
really, this
Tater.
was mostly just me trying to help you guys.
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
It's benevolence, for sure. You can code it that way. That's fine. But I feel like there's a Tater that takes advantage of those moments and gets more
What?
knowledge from them.
Yeah,
No.
you know how you get more knowledge? You tell me what you're doing,
Ow! Ow!
and then I explain.
Yep.
why is he screaming, ow, ow,
What I
ow?
was
Nothing.
thinking.
Nothing. I just need some bandages.
Oh yeah, I got some.
Did
for you.
I feel like he fell on the spikes. Did you fall on the spikes, Tater?
So I was putting down a shit ton of spikes and I backed into the other spikes, but I was like backing up, placing them so I couldn't go forwards anymore.
Sure.
So I had to
you-
just sprint through all of the spikes.
Hang on, I have a really
Okay.
important question I have to ask my chat real quick. Hey chat, should I
Yeah.
tell Tater that when he hits himself on his own spikes that he damages them and makes them die faster when they get hit by zombies? Do you think I should tell Tater that?
Nope.
I wouldn't.
No? Okay, good. Yeah.
I wouldn't.
That's why there's going to be multiple rings of spikes.
That's right, because of all the ones that Tater
Gesundheit, Scipio.
damaged. Oh, Gazoot Snoot, little precious.
You're such a good little boy.
I'm envisioning all of this filled with spikes. This is my vision for the world.
Your
Oh,
vision
trying this tiny tree and
is
it's not working.
spikes.
Yeah, just spikes. That's all I think about.
That is. I mean,
Yeah.
it's for someone.
He
Diagnose
craves
that.
the spikes.
Diagnose that.
He craves them.
The fact that you're asking for me to diagnose that tells me everything I need to know. You're good. Yeah.
Interesting.
You've got gangrene.
You do?
Tater does. He asked me to diagnose it. That's.
Oh.
Yeah.
That tracks. Yeah, I
No.
believe that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
That's what we
hey,
do.
chat. How's YouTube's chat? I've never actually been on the receiving end of the live stream chat.
YouTube's chat is dope.
Is it? All right.
Yeah, it's pretty comfy. My experience is from watching Min-Maxed every other Sunday.
Do we live stream every other Sunday?
We do.
Premieres.
We do.
Yeah. I don't monitor that channel.
That's
I always watch
fair.
the when it gets posted, and I'm like, oh yeah, I should watch that.
I go through and I watch it. My family, it has turned into a family event. We will all sit around the TV and watch Min-Max together. And it's
do you mean on
as
the premiere?
disgustingly cute as you think. Yeah, when it premieres.
That's adorable.
Oh, that makes sense.
So we just kind of vibe. And like, there's one day that my family almost missed it. And they're like, you didn't tell us it was today. I was like, I thought we knew it was today. They're like, no. And they watched it. We were, I was like 2 hours away somewhere. And we all watched it and we yap about it. My dad thinks you're hilarious, Jack.
Oh, thank you.
I need you to know that. He thinks you're hilarious because he sees how much of a cat of a person you are.
Yeah.
And is like, oh, he can't help himself but poke things. And I'm like, yeah, that's Jack. That's it. And that's, yep.
It do be that way.
And it do be that way. And it is important. And yeah.
Listen, it's a hard job, but someone's got to do it.
Ain't that a fact, brother? Ain't that a fact? Aw, thank you so much for the gift. I appreciate you.
Oh, my name's still spelled wrong in the credits, and it cracks me up every time.
Oh no, what?
Oh yeah, it wasn't until like episode 7 that my wife finally told David, like, hey, there's a C in Jacques, by the way. It's not JAQ.
Yeah, I think mine's still like
This is
more, like with
this
PH.
is why my Venmo name is JacquesZeWhipper, because when I
Yeah,
joke about
yeah.
like in my show. So in my show, I say like, I've seen you all try to spell my name in French, and a man can only get called HackedZeWhipper so many times. That's not really a joke.
Yeah. I want you to know, every time I've mentioned you in a video, I just let the auto caption do whatever it wants.
Oh
with
yeah,
your name.
yeah.
I like deliberately.
Honestly, I should
I don't
do that.
fix it because it's funny.
It is. It is.
Yeah,
I've gotten
yeah.
some good ones. Jockey Wiper,
Yeah.
Sexy Wiper, quite a few times.
Okay,
Sure,
well, that
sure,
one.
of course.
Yeah.
Of course. I have a video coming out soon that is I got a request to collab with you, Jack, and David Sellsword Arts David. But I'm in Ohio, so I dressed up like the both of you.
Nice. I love this. I'm excited for this.
It was really dumb. It's not good. It is funny.
No, it's good. It's
I
great.
guarantee you it's good.
Thanks. I'm very excited. Oh my gosh.
Oh, these spikes make it so much harder to fortify the
Yes,
wall.
Echo, this is Minecraft. A pleasure to see you in stream.
Hi, Echo.
Oh, that's so many more thingies.
Also, I've been complimented on my patience to chop this down with a stone axe because I refuse to upgrade my materials because I don't know how and knowledge scares me. So I will
Bit of a
I've only
process.
been using a stone axe this entire time.
Yeah, honestly, like the stone axe is fine.
repair. No! I scrapped it instead. Menace
Nice.
to society. Thanks. I'm a gamer. Boys. I know what I'm doing.
Do you? You sound like a gangsta. I know what I'm doing.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So we kidnapped the princess. Anyway.
Babyface.
Yeah.
Oh, the fat lady gets it. I'm like,
That's right.
Good guy, dog. Yeah.
Hey, you didn't need to go down to the garage at all.
Well, I was trying to
was
leave it
that
open
a
for an
question?
escape route.
Was that
Oh.
like
Yeah, I was
Was that-
also leaving it open.
Well, no,
Yes.
like I was blocking the wall off, but like leaving the space open.
so everyone is so surprised that I live in Ohio. I don't understand.
Oh,
It's-
does that sound like a Japanese word?
It is a Japanese word. It's Ohio, I believe, means good morning.
Ohayo gozaimasu.
Yeah.
Yeah, get in my face.
There you go.
I only know omae wa mo shindaru.
You
Nani?
fucking
And why
weeb.
do you know that?
absolute weeb. People are telling me to find books. Listen, we've got Horde Night tonight. I agree with you that finding books is important. We have stuff to do. Like, we need to set up because Supreme Leader, Commander, and Lord Commandant Tater has told us that it's time to get set up for the night. So we need to make sure. Yeah.
Spike. That is my commandment.
Spike?
Yep. More spike.
Okay, I could do that. Tater, you're building the game completely wrong. You need to, like, we have, like, how many hours until Horde Night? And you're not doing, Jack, what are some things that he should be doing that he's not doing so I can sound like a Spike?
Well, hang on. Let me see. Let me see what's over here.
Can I come to the garage?
Well, you missed a spot. Missed a few spots.
Well, I'm going back to it. I'm going back to it.
Okay. Sure. Thank you. Thank you.
Go ahead. Drive your bike into the garage.
Well, so, like, a much better thing to do here would have been to maybe, I don't know, upgrade all these blocks before you put spikes in front of them.
They're not going to get to the blocks.
Okay.
They're not going to get to the blocks?
This is only like a quarter of the spikes that I want to put over here.
Okay.
Hey, guys. I don't think Jack has a lot of faith in my plan.
Are you questioning our leader?
I got a plan.
I'm sorry.
Also, I love how you've been complaining about not having enough wood, and there's a tree right in the front yard.
I heard that, Andrew. I agree.
There's also an obelisk that I built in the street.
I like your obelisk. It looks very...
Obelisk.
Wait a second. Is that... No.
No,
that can't be.
Nay, I shan't say.
Shan't and I won't.
Tater's really embracing the tin pot dictator lifestyle with all those titles. What do I think of it?
I mean, yeah.
I'm not saying. I'm not saying. You'll find out on Horde Night.
Oh yeah, got it.
How am I encumbered? It's the rocks that I'm carrying. The way I said that made it feel like it should have been obvious.
It was obvious. Is the hardest part of that whole thing that you had to go through there. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When me and my friends go hiking, we think it's really funny to try to sneak rocks into each other's backpacks.
Oh, you put pocket. Yeah.
Yeah, just to like progressively make someone's hike hard.
Yeah.
But like gradually so they don't realize.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I feel like I would notice one rock, let alone a few dozen.
That's what makes it a challenge.
Yeah, you underestimate my put pocket ability.
You underestimate my put pocket.
Okay, so the way that pocket is ending the sentence actually makes me uncomfortable. I don't like it. Yeah, it's weird, I know, but it's the hard P and then the pocket, and there's a lot going on in that's making me you should say it again just one more time so you can hear it
You
yourself.
Underestimate my put pocket.
Thank you. Okay, yeah. No. All right. How many spikes are we putting down? And
all of them.
Apparently all of them.
I want every tree within a 2-mile radius turned into spikes. Ow! See? They're effective.
You make
As
me
I will
tired,
demonstrate
but in
now.
like a way that I would come back for. Do you understand? Like,
Drown.
you make me exhausted in a way that says, I'll see you next week. But
That's clay. This is sand, right? Can I whack this? There's a whole construction site across the street.
whack.
It's been slightly looted, but yeah, there might be stuff in there.
But there's like wood and stuff in here. Like we don't have to cut down trees, guys. So we can just harvest it.
It might not be a great yield.
Ah. I see.
Me when I'm looking at my fields before a famine.
I found legendary parts. Are those important?
Oh, maybe.
I am now level 40 for the people asking in my chat.
There you go.
Did you hear me, Jacques?
What was that?
I found legendary parts. Are those important?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Also,
Not immediately so, but yeah, they're useful.
Shattered Cat, yes. The answer is yes to that question. That's a silly question. It's 2020.
Sorry.
The answer is always
Who
yes.
are you? One little random zombie out here.
Just chilling.
How did that go for you? Yeah.
What was I doing?
Fuck out of my face.
That's right. You let him know, Tater.
Yeah,
you let
Tell
know
him.
what's up.
Yeah, no,
I'm not taking that.
Set your
You're not
boundaries.
gonna take it. Tater's not gonna take it. Tater's not gonna take it anymore. Bum, 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 bum,
Where's everyone
bum,
going?
bum. Amy G, thank
Bingo?
you.
I love that the voice delay in Discord makes singing as a group just
impossible.
impossible at all times. It's just never going to work.
Well, you have to. I mean,
Sounds like Twitter
you have to
talk
pick
to me.
who's gonna whose is going to sound good, and
Yeah,
Right.
that's always
Yes,
me.
that's actually accurate.
Yeah.
I have put spikes around everything.
How many
and we'll be
rings though? How many layers?
Ogre.
It's ogre.
Ogre. It's all ogre now.
No.
Game ogre. He's quick.
Jack, I can't-
He's
I should
quick.
be-
You gotta.
Should be
Yeah.
beating you.
Damn.
How many times am I gonna have to repair this stupid axe?
Yes.
Oh, smart. Thank you guys for giving me that tip.
All right, one more Powerade.
What was the tip?
Bye, Casson.
There was a tip? Oh yeah, I was gonna grab. We have a little pusher robot. I was gonna put him in the front door.
There you go.
That's a good idea.
A little pusher robot?
Yeah, robotic
little thing.
little robotic thing. Actually, someone else could probably grab the other one, and you could have two pusher robots.
That just push things out of the door?
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically, it's a good way to slow
That's-
things down.
Kind of awesome.
Will you, Ben? Will you go get the other one?
Yes, I will figure out where that is and go grab that.
It's see the structure over there. To your right.
Little cobblestone hut, little shit shack I made.
Yeah.
There should be one outside the front door.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I should have asked our leader. Leader, is this a good idea to put a pusher on the front by the front door?
Yes. It's a
Perfect.
great idea, and I thought of it. You have to give me credit for it.
You're right. You thought of it, sir.
Surely
Oh,
being a
that's-
dictator won't go to my head.
No, I don't see why it would.
They do
Every
damage
dictator
too.
ever.
I suggest a flaming shaft mod for optimal efficiency with the pusher bots.
Oh,
We have two flaming shaft mods in the armor and mods
Okay.
chest.
I think that's a really good idea.
Good call. Good call.
Thank you.
I don't know how to apply this mod,
Where's
but
everyone
we
going?
got it.
Bingo?
Cannot see who just Black Dragon. Thank you for that. Appreciate that.
If I place it, can I pick it back up?
Yes.
So we're pretty much gonna hold this front door. Like, is that what's happening?
Well,
Well,
I mean,
It's gonna be
I
the
was-
last thing to fortify. So
yeah, I was gonna
Where's everyone
save
going?
like 200
Bingo?
spikes to fill up the first floor of the house.
Oh. Okay.
But that, subject to you guys telling me that's a bad idea.
No. Listen, I agree with you, Supreme Lord Leader.
Yeah.
Chief High Muckety Muck. Yeah.
I'm muckety muck. Castle in the clouds. He sits so proudly.
I am
More
cultured.
spikes.
I feel that in my soul. All right.
Look at these robots.
All right. I have the flaming shaft mod, and I'm going to attempt to apply this.
I believe in you. You can do this, Drew.
Thank you. Oh, I didn't mean to pick that up. I've already messed up. So that's good times.
It's also suddenly gotten much more dangerous getting to the robots for some reason.
Weird.
That's kind of crazy.
Weird. Wonder why that is.
We'll never know.
Why is this? Why does Jacques? Maybe you know. One tour is sad. The other one is not.
spiked. Well, good luck.
Is there like
Might need to be repaired.
great. Yeah. Should I whack with a hammer to repair it, or?
No, you need a repair kit. They're in rock lobsters.
Okay, great. And then how do I just right? Oh god, I picked it up again. Do I just right click on this thing to apply mods to it?
No. With it in your inventory, you should be able to adjust it.
Can I not repair it in my thing? I can. Oh, I see.
I mean, when I'm slipping on the ground in the cold.
Oh my God, Tater.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'll see you next week. You know, like it's back to previous comment.
I love my Tater in Christ. That seems to be
Kind of everything. Yeah.
Oh, I'm taking damage from holding this in my arms? Okay, I'll put it down. Or that's someone else grunting because of the spikes.
It's me grunting. I have put these ladders in a spot that does not work, and I am sad now.
I thought it was the flaming robot I had in my hands, but no. It was you killing yourself. Silly me.
Hey, Jack, have I told you how I build my bases in the forest? Tons of...
No, go for it.
I build concentric rings of traps.
Yeah. Oh, you did. Yeah, and then there's your party all dies because they don't know the way through, and then you die because you also don't know the way through all the traps.
Yeah.
And then
I
everyone
build
dies.
I build like 15 rings of log fall traps around my house with a certain way that you can get through them safely, and then I forget the way, and all my friends get massacred by my log traps. And
honestly, this is the way.
Yeah, I'm bringing that up because I think that's what's going to happen now as well.
So Tater, I have a Paisley Panda in my chat.
Okay.
And they said the night and day difference between Tater stream and this one, where someone's actually competent, is crazy.
Wait, what do you mean someone's actually competent? Are they speaking ill of our good leader Tater?
Yeah, who has no clue what they're doing versus someone who's actually competent.
At least they're watching the stream, right? You know?
That's so funny.
What if we build a trench around the house and fill it with spikes?
Don't you badmouth my leader.
That's right. I'm the only one that can say that they're not good at the game behind their back.
Where's the repair tools you spoke, or repair kit?
Rock lobsters.
Thank you. You said that, and I ignored you.
It's all good.
Nah, it's okay. He's used to it.
To be fair, I'm ignoring all you guys while I just do my own thing and make you guys do the work.
I'm so excited to die almost instantly.
I'm sorry, is there a zombie near me? Or is one of you just making weird noises?
I'm gonna say weird noises, yeah.
So that's not what noise a zombie makes. That's a different thing.
Hey,
no?
You've never seen a zombie that's tired and doing their best to climb a small hill.
Bingo?
Yeah.
Beth, thank you, Beth.
I got thirsty.
They both have the flaming mods and the flaming rods and
now only one person can place one, so someone else will have to place.
What do you mean?
Only one.
Also, make sure
you can
that
only
the
place
butchers
one.
aren't facing each other.
I placed both.
Because
yeah, but only one is going to work. Yeah, so like Bensei or Tater should pick up the other one.
Well, I got hungry cutting wood, and all I had was beer and cat food.
Oh, you've got cut
drunk.
wood.
Sure.
I'm cutting down trees drunk with a belly full of cat food. This is the life.
Honestly, vibes. For chatters that are curious why I just stood up, the back of my left leg cramped, and then from the inordinate amount of sit-ups I did today, my core cramped. So I stood up, and then it folded me over the other direction. I'm like, don't do that. I've been laughing too hard, I think. And yep, there it goes again. Fun.
That's honestly our bad for being hilarious. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's so funny.
Literally,
it's causing you pain.
I'll tone it down.
You know, these kids. Anyway, All right. Do we have any good ways to stand out over top of where the horde is? Not really. Tater,
I'm
did you
learning-
make a chimney?
I don't know. I'm learning
No, the
that beer
tater-
does not hydrate you at all. I chugged a bunch of beer out here,
What
and it
are
has not hydrated me.
What are you talking about?
Oh no.
I don't drink beer in real life. I don't know what it does.
Who hurt you?
I only drink Vegas bombs.
What are Vegas bombs?
What is a
Whiskey
Vegas
and Red
bomb?
Bull.
Brother?
Jesus.
And grenadine sometimes.
At grenadine when you feel fancy? Do you put in like the little shark thing from Outback and you just like pour it in? It's like, it's a shark! Is that...
Okay. Goodbye, Jack.
Bye.
Beep, beep.
All booze dehydrates you. It's part of what causes a hangover. I've never been hungover, so I actually don't know.
Oh, what a lucky man you are.
Wow. We got to fix that at midnight.
Yeah.
No, no.
Tater hung over.
Yeah, I did.
Wait. Like the funniest and the worst time.
All right, so I told this story to Jack this weekend, but on my second date with my girlfriend, I ate an entire Little Caesars pizza, like one of the hot and readies.
Oh, wait,
went
how
to the
would you
bar
not?
with
Yeah,
her.
finish the story. Sorry.
Yeah. So I ate an entire Little Caesars pizza, immediately went to the bar with her on our second date, drank like 10 vodka cranberries, and threw up the entire pizza in the street outside of the bar. And no hangover after that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, like I woke up at like 6:30 a.m. the next day and like went to work and was straight chilling. So I think I'm immune to them.
So that is a thing. I know. So my friend Kevin, that Kevin is also immune to hangovers, and I've seen him very much in a state where I'm like, "You are going to be hungover tomorrow," and then he's like, "No, I'm fine."
And yes, she is still dating me. I don't know what
I
she
know.
saw in me on that night.
A man that
Am I
can,
hallucinating my relationship? Well,
Listen, she saw you at your worst. Couldn't get any worse than that.
I need to flex you on.
Oh,
hold up.
don't. It might.
Tater,
You don't know him.
Tater, don't remind her.
insane behavior, truly and entirely.
Okay, I have supply crates upstairs, fellas, with the food and meds.
The more
Just
time I
so
spend
you
with
know.
Tater, the more I'm like, this man is just actually a raccoon.
What do you? Hey, so related to me being a raccoon, when my band got our first like EP art made, I accidentally commissioned the art myself as a raccoon.
Okay.
Oh,
I
so
didn't
you already
think
have
about
your
it.
persona.
Yeah,
How'd you accidentally do that?
no, I was a raccoon playing a guitar, but I didn't think about it, and it was just like we were joking. Raccoon. I'll get a picture of us made as raccoons, and then I looked at. This is furry. I made a persona.
How
Yeah,
do you feel about that?
I was
There you
not
go,
a
buddy.
hot raccoon for the record.
You were not a hot raccoon?
No, I
I'm gonna
didn't
let
make
my furry
myself-
community be the judge of that. Furry!
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Dredge up that art. I know you can find it. You all work in tech.
It's on
Just make sure.
Spotify.
Oh, it's
Hey,
on Spotify? Good. Thank you
it's
so
the,
much.
It's the album cover. It's
Ben,
me
are you
as a
near the
furry.
base? Oh, you're on the roof. Would you come down?
I'm on the roof. I'm making it tater-proof so that we can fall off the roof and not fall off the roof.
When you get a chance, will you come in and pick up and replace one of the right-hand turret when you're looking at the door?
Yeah. I'm on my way down.
Because apparently it won't
now.
work if I do both of them.
It understands the absolute alpha that you are and gets intimidated. So yeah, I'll come down.
Oh no! Why'd
Yeah.
you block this? No, why? Oh god, I can't get up here now.
That's okay.
Ooh,
That's
what?
all right.
Me?
Wait, do I need
I don't
to
know.
turn?
Someone.
The turrets
Wait.
both look like they're facing forward.
Was
No,
it
yeah,
spikes?
do the right one.
Are there
No,
spikes?
it's a block blocking the attic's access.
Oh, then it wasn't me. I only do spikes. If it's not a spike, it's not me.
Okay.
How do
all
I
right.
I
mean, if
pick it up? Do I have
Hit
to
E.
destroy it?
No, hit E. Don't destroy it, please.
It's not letting me pick up either of them.
It's because you don't believe.
I'm too much of an alpha too, I guess. All
Yeah,
right.
if it's an upgraded block, you can't pick it up.
Oh, cool.
No. He's talking about the machine, the turret.
Oh.
I told him to pick one up.
Ow. I'm
It doesn't
fine.
let you pick up that one right in front of me.
It doesn't let me pick up either of these. Hang on.
Weird.
Maybe
Can
you
I-
have to pick
can
it up
I-
and then drop it for him.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I don't usually work with these all that much, so
Oh, well, that's exciting.
All right.
Super ultra
Wait, Ben,
spike
come
pit
back.
of doom is looking very nice.
Don't run
Coming.
away.
I will be back.
Don't run away from your feelings.
Oh,
Oh, hello.
yeah, okay, that makes sense. Hi.
All right. Here, pick this up.
Okay.
And then place it for me, please.
Just here in the front door?
Yep.
Okay.
Because apparently, Jacques says it won't work if I do both of them. I can only do one at a time. So you do the other. Oh, hello.
I didn't know you could hold it and use it. That's kind of fun.
What?
did I go Lucky Looter or Pack Mule at all? I took 1 point in Pack Mule and that's it.
Okay, and he
Lucky
gets
Looter is a
more,
trap.
Okay, so they show up at midnight, yeah? Not just when the sun goes down?
They show up at 2200, but it's tomorrow, not tonight.
Yeah, we're chilling.
Okay.
I have a whole nother day.
You have a
to
whole
build
extra day.
spikes.
Okay, I was kind of freaking out that it was right now and happening, and no one seemed to be paying
Oh
attention.
no! No, don't worry.
Guys?
I would be doing things if that were the case. Oh shit! I gotta turn
It'd
this
be
quest
fine.
in.
It'd be fine.
Oh, I'm not gonna be able to turn this quest in tonight, am I? Maybe if I'm fast. I'm fast as fuck, boy.
There you go.
Nope, not like that.
Damn, I couldn't body block you. It's quite disappointing.
I just ran you over with a Vespa. How does that feel, Tater?
Honestly, fine.
No.
Completely okay.
Cool.
That fits my idea of my own masculinity. Yeah, I'd get.
Oh no, we'll have the Horde tonight to do hay. Don't worry.
Don't you worry, your precious little head. We will
Just call
die.
Looter yeah. Lucky Looter is a trap because it's not actually that useful and it doesn't do a whole lot for you. It's God damn it. Fuck you, Trader Rect.
Oh, you almost made it too. I heard him.
Yep. It's useful in very niche circumstances. By the way, Ben, there is a Furious Fists in the learning chest for you.
Well, thank you so much.
Dude,
You're so supportive of his endeavors.
Listen.
It's really-
listen. The
yeah.
punchy punch build is so much fun.
I'm having a blast
I thought you were gonna
already.
say broken.
I mean, it's probably not broken, but it is very fun.
No, well, once you get it fully online, it is actually broken. You just
cool.
are just a vampire and you don't die.
what?
Bensei is a vampire. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom, boom. Left to kill zombies.
I actually, so little known fact, I kind of lived off of Dad Rock because
A's.
when my dad and my sister and I would go to martial arts tournaments, it was during the time that was just on the radio. So like that was our pregame music. It was Seven Dust, it was Smashing Pumpkins, it was Three Doors Down, 3 Days Grace, like it just all of it. A good mix. Disturbed, obviously, Korn, obviously, like it just all of it. And we just that was our pregame music. So yeah, that's little Bensei tidbit for you.
Korn has an amazing cover of Kidnap the Sandy Claus from Nightmare Before Christmas, and I just want to
It's
yeah,
the
they do.
best.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't need to
that
get
whole
loud.
album.
It's so good. It's
That whole
so
album's
good.
great.
It's the right feral goblin energy that you would think you would get from 3 delinquent dead children that are about to go steal Santa.
Yeah. I'm going to run a commercial
can
and I will be back. So, gentlemen, you're all in charge.
Yeah, Bensei,
Oh,
can I
no.
hear your best impression of the funky noises that Jonathan Davis makes?
Yeah.
Yeah, can I?
From Korn? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, the
give me
singer.
a second. Give me a second. Let me punch this zombie.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah.
No, it's good. Boom. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
No, that's really
So
good.
good.
That's really
So
solid.
good.
Yeah.
I
That's you
just
gotta get in there.
I admire his dedication to just making funky noises on a song. You know what I mean?
It's like scat, you know?
Yeah.
it's like angry scat.
When I like write and record music, I get very in my head about like, okay, this has to sound like correct. This has to be like the right, you know what I mean? Like the proper way to do stuff. And then it's just like, no, just make some funny noises. I love that for them.
Yeah. It's I can't. So percussionist for a long time, never good at drum set, too many things to keep track of.
Fair.
That being said, played tenors like it was my job. I played marching tenors like it was my job. I had quints. I miss my drums so bad. But like the musician inhibition of like, I don't know if I can, this must sound like this. It's like, it's so real. It's like, I want to make music that I love. I think that this would go good here. But because the idea of what this will be in my head is different than how it's coming out, I must do this 30,000 times or stop entirely and never try again.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're seen, brother. You're seen.
You just got to put it out there. Have you guys heard of Kim Dracula?
No.
No.
Really fun. The Make Me Famous song has like, it goes through several different genres.
Oh.
Including like death metal and then like jazz and then like, but all in the same song. It's great. He's kind of a weird dude, but he did a collab with that lead singer of Korn.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's really good. Someone in chat said divorced dad scat is what Korn is.
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah.
Rough one. This is going to be a rough one for me to say to everybody. I was recently informed that Avenged Sevenfold is now dad rock.
Oh no.
Yeah, it is.
How do you feel about that?
It sucks because that was like one of my favorite bands in high school. Like that, I grew up listening to Avenged Sevenfold, and now the fact that is dad
rock.
Dad
rock.
Welcome to fatherhood. Yeah.
Yeah, that is solid dad rock, my guy. It's so crazy. I can't wait. I mean, Skrillex is already Encore. Like I am.
Not not Skrillex.
Yeah, Skrillex. Like Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites is like, dude, I don't like listening to this. Not said by me. I absolutely adore it. I grew up playing like in middle school, which is when I think that came out for me. It was Skrillex in the morning paired with Fallout New Vegas. And that's how it would start my morning.
Hell yeah.
I love New Vegas.
Yeah. The gamer runs deep, and the music is
Old World Blues is still my favorite DLC that I've ever.
Oh my
ever
god,
played.
it's so good. Yeah,
so good.
Yeah, my mom got scholarships for college because of her musical abilities. She was a flautist, and an extremely good one. And dad just liked good music. So I grew up surrounded and immersed in every genre of music that could exist.
Oh yeah.
Like right down to my grandparents were still heavy churchgoers and listened to bluegrass. So like I got all of it. And when people ask me this, which is your favorite music? Is there bad music? No, it's music. And if it makes you feel some type of way, then it's good music. Like that's the deal. Yeah. Yeah, I even avant-garde stuff catches me off guard, and I'm like, yo, this is kind of fire sometimes. Sometimes it's garbage, but that's an opinion piece. Like that's So yeah,
I had to have like a renaissance of music like after high school because, and this is a rough one to admit, I was like the high schooler who found out what Metallica was and then was like, I only listen to real music. All of your music doesn't have any skill, unlike Metallica. Metallica's the heaviest band ever.
Love you so much.
Like, that is how I behaved about music for a hot minute. And then like post high school, I had to go back and like listen to other types of music and be like,
this
shit kind of slaps.
Yeah. You ever heard
Yeah.
In the Mood? It's a great song.
You want to know a fun fact?
I would love to
yeah.
know a fun fact.
My grandmother was an English teacher,
Yeah.
and she had Cyclops in her class.
What?
But she would do what?
Cyclops?
From the X-Men?
Yeah, from X-Men, the first one. He's from
What?
Oklahoma, and he was in the class. Anyways, but she would do Metallica as an example of great poetry, like great works of art.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah. Enter the
That's
Sandman
so
was
cool.
like, she's like, this is a great piece of poetry. You guys should study this.
I love the fact that Cyclops being in her class was not the highlight of that story.
No.
That's,
I thought Metallica was way cooler than that.
yeah, you know what?
I mean,
Fair enough.
Cyclops is kind of lame, to be very honest.
I think
Well, it's- what's
Cyclops'
his face,
powers are really cool. I think he's a little too Dudley Do-Right with
Well,
them.
now he's
Yeah.
Sonic's dad, so I mean,
Did you say
He
he's
is.
Sonic's dad?
He is.
yeah, the actor.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's crazy.
Moving up in the world, I should say.
Yeah.
What's happening?
I just killed a deer with a bicycle.
Oh, yeah, you can do that. Loot the body. Loot the body. Get the meat.
Get the meat.
Oh, I didn't realize that I'm infected. Interesting.
We have plenty of herbal antibiotics.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not bad. It's 1.7. We're okay. It just caught me off guard.
Oh, there's another room in here. I didn't know this room. Nice little lamp.
Mr.
little
Bensei,
desk.
how much classical music? All of it. Give me everything.
Mr.
Because-
What's your
Bensei.
favorite classical song, Bensei?
What is my favorite classical song?
Mr. Bensei's his father.
Mr. Bensei, please, Mr. Bensei, my father. Gosh, what is my favorite classical song? I
Mine's
don't remember
Papa Bell's
many of the
Canon.
names off the top of my head. I'll have to do my research and give you a
gotta,
name.
You just got to sing. You just got to sing it for me.
That's
I'll know.
fair.
I'll know the name.
Okay. Give me a second. Let me get these antibiotics in before I'm dumb and die. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Carmen's solid.
Yeah,
Oh, Carbon's solid. This guy's such a dork.
Sorry, Tater. I mean, Toccata in Fugue is also solid. Bach really was slapping with that one. A lot of people say that is the original metal, and I am inclined to agree with that.
I think Toccata and Fugue really does hit as one of my absolute favorites. Thank you for reminding me of the name. It's fun, but for me right now as grown Ben, it feels too edgy. Which is hilarious to say about classical music, right? Because Toccata and Fugue, you like that when you're 13 and have black eye makeup on. Like that's when you like Toccata and Fugue.
I'm gonna be real honest with you though. That part where like the at about the 2-minute mark where it like turns into like like that
it
slaps.
does go hard.
Give me an electric guitar with that.
It never won't. Yeah, for sure. I heard an EDM mix of it and I thought it was fire.
Oh.
Yeah, it went ugly.
I've discovered recently that a lot of pop songs are just Papa Bell's Canon, which cracks me up.
That's kind of insane.
Like it, yeah. It's not like a hard song to play.
No.
In fact, some parts are really boring to play, but like a lot of pop songs are just that too, and I was like, that's hilarious.
Hi, buddy. What is Mega Crush? Is Mega Crush an energy drink?
Yeah, so save it for Horde Night. If shit hits the fan, it makes you run faster and hit harder.
Oh.
I'm gonna drink
I should probably get some of that for our box.
Mineral water. I feel like that mineral water is probably gonna do me.
Yes.
I don't like the disturbing sounds it's making.
Which disturbing sounds? The weird ambiance?
Yeah, the someone's playing a saw
Tater,
noise.
What?
you're crouched again.
I think it's glitched, big dog. Because
Okay.
you said I was crouched and then I hit the button and it made me crouch. Unless there's 2 stages of crouch that I don't know what's happening around me.
Which
is, like, that's possible.
There is control locks you into crouch, and then C temporarily puts you into crouch. So if you're holding C down, it'll look like you're. Where did things go? I need.
Jack, when you played Halo, you honked the warthog horn and the mongoose horn at everyone.
You know,
right?
I never played a ton of Halo.
Really?
That was more my wife's show.
actually surprises
I
me.
mean, I was a PlayStation guy, so.
Respectable. That was Garamer's game? That was G's game?
Yeah.
We convinced our church to buy us a bunch of Xboxes to have a LAN party for Halo because they thought it was a Christian game.
Nice.
What?
You know,
great.
that tracks, and I respect the subterfuge.
Yeah, actually. I mean, did you tell them that Gullible was written on the ceiling, or?
To be fair, this is the same church that installed the Starbucks in their lobby, so they're not hurting for money. Like,
okay. You know
so
what?
we
It'd be
were like
that
stealing from the poor or anything. Like,
right.
they didn't bat an eye
kidding me?
For
The
5
poor
Xboxes.
can't have an Xbox. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Jack does honk the horn in PUBG, though. I do know that.
Yep.
Oh.
He's a great car distraction.
I mean,
Tater and I played 2 games of PUBG, and we discovered the unbeatable strategy in game 2, which is I drive the car. Tater gets out of the car when we get to a settlement. We discover that there are people there. I continue to do donuts in the parking lot, and Tater kills them all.
that's amazing.
I got 4 kills or something because everyone was just cowering, hiding from an idiot in the car, honking the horn. And I just got to walk up behind all of them and slam them.
That
love
was spectacular.
The idea of me just doing donuts.
Yeah.
Just joyride.
Every single person is a Slim Shady lurking. He could be doing donuts in the parking lot, screaming, "I don't give a," with his windows down and the
was
system
really
up.
Now
That's really good, Jack.
yourself?
I'm actually, I am proud to be your friend. That was clean.
Tater, sir, I have an idea.
Uh-oh.
Jacques may not be able to, won't help us, but chat might if we ask them if we need to load anything else into this wonderful base of yours.
We don't need supplies because no zombies are going to get to us because of all the spikes.
Right.
Yeah, of
But
course,
if they
sir. You're
did-
right. I'm sorry to question you.
Yeah. And I'll thank you to remember. So, gosh, what was I even gonna say? We're so
if you
ridiculous.
can let me know what I should load in as supplies. That'd be great. What's up?
Not with. I didn't hear anything.
Oh, great. Yeah. What were you saying, Ben?
Nothing. I mean, we're just vibing. I'm currently
Ben
just
say, do you
looking around.
prefer Ben or Ben say or Ben Sai or Ben Siu?
Ben. Ben is great.
Ben's great. Okay,
Love
great.
Ben. I'm with my friends. Ben. I'm Ben. It's yeah.
Mr.
Yeah.
Ben.
Yeah, there you go. That's please. That's my rice.
That's my right.
Yo, there's a sneak attack damage boost in this game?
Yes. And not.
Where's
good,
David when you
but
need him?
established.
I don't like the way that sounds.
Tater.
You goo?
Yeah, no,
You
things are
goo?
chilling. No, things are fine.
Okay.
Tater.
Yeah, no, things are gonna be fine. Things are stop
Okay,
moving.
you do.
Things are fine. Things are
I'm
going
gonna
to
plot
go
my
find
body in
Tater.
the attic, and then I'm gonna BRB.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
things are all good.
What?
Oh, I was trying to shoot someone and I got a spooked, but it was fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Everything's fine. All right. BRB.
Lake in the Moonlight by Tchaikovsky just hits me in the feels every time, says Katharina.
Yo, there's a lot of food that was in this chest that is now gone. Where'd all that food
Like
go?
what kind of food?
Like a
8?
lot of it.
Like 8 blueberry pies?
Yeah, and like 12 vegetable soups and all the coffee that I had.
All right, I didn't take any coffee or vegetable soups. I did take all the pie because I like pie.
That's adorable.
Jack, do you want
I
the pie
took a
back?
couple of steaks.
No, I need the coffee because I'm going to go mining.
Tater. What's your
Yes.
favorite flavor of pie?
Apple.
Me too.
With
Do you
ice
like
cream.
it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Tater, if we find anywhere for min-max this time with apple pie.
Yeah, on it. I also am a big pumpkin pie enthusiast, but
For sure.
yeah.
I am a sucker
with
for a
ice
good bourbon pecan pie. I find that very, very delicious and happy. Also with ice cream, because I'm not a monster.
Word. Okay.
And rhubarb pie, I recently discovered.
Oh,
I do
babas
enjoy.
rababa.
Yeah.
Yeah, rhubarb does go crazy. I do feel that.
Yeah.
Es war mal in einem kleinen Städtchen. Da lebte ein Mädchen namens Barbara. Und diese Barbara nahm im ganzen Land für ihren appetitlich guten Rhabarberkuchen bekannt. Ja, man konnte sagen, dass Barbaras Rhabarberkuchen unterwandert aber gar eine geradezu magische Erfahrung gar. Abracadabra, dus diese Kuchen war geradezu bombastisch und die Nachfrage danach erstarkte drastisch. Barbara eröffnet noch im selben Jahr eine Bar und nannte sie Barbaras Rhabarberbar. In der Stadt gab es auch Barbaren, die hatten von Barbaras Rhabarberbar erfahren. Da sie fortan jeden Tag bei Barbara waren, nannte man sie bald die Rhabarbarbaren.
Testing 1 2 1 2 1 2. Hello, hello.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that. Yeah, yeah.
I heard
what
abracadabra.
curse did you summon? Yeah,
Are we talking about Lady Gaga?
No, that's all about Barbara's rhubarb pie bar. And the barbarians that went and hung out there. Do you guys not remember that one? Come on.
No.
It was real big circa 2024.
This is PG-15 stream. Thank you.
Listen. Barbara's Rhabarberbar.
Yeah, but Abracadabra by Lady Gaga, like counter argument.
It's very overrated.
Hello.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Hello.
I said what I said.
That's like
Hello.
That's like the second song on one of my workout playlists. Shit goes crazy.
Sorry, chat says I'm
Yeah,
really quiet.
yeah.
I'm trying to fix it.
Okay, take your time. Do you think? Hey, I'm gonna hide in the building now, and I'm gonna be right back because I would like a peanut butter cookie.
Cool. I'm going to harvest some stone so that I can continue building my base.
Yes, sir.
What do you mean your base, Jack?
I'm sorry, what?
His base. What did you miss?
Jack,
Yeah. What's up, Tater?
we made a deal.
Listen, I'm still going to start the night with you guys. And then if everything goes sour, I have built my base in an area that you guys cannot access without slowly dying.
Great.
I do play games. I'll be right back. I'm grabbing a cookie.
God, he's
Play
such a
games.
good friend.
Grab a cookie.
I also play games.
Is the city
my
better,
party.
chat? Because I am. Oh, you'll let me know which wreck.
Does meat go bad in this game?
No.
That's good.
Yeah.
This meat been sitting in my pocket for a while.
Yeah. It's also making you smelly, which is probably why you're getting more zombies attacking you.
That's good. I want the bloodshed.
Okay.
I require more wood. Don't we all?
That's what she said.
No. You're right. You're right. That was funnier.
How can meat not go bad if there's rotten meat? Well, the rotten meat is like a special snack you get when you kill the zombies.
Not
like
a
a
snack.
It's like a reward.
Not a snack.
Hey, I never had any bad consequences for all the rotten
You're right.
meat I ate.
You
Like,
really
it was
didn't.
completely fine. Everyone scolded me about eating the meat, but
I mean, why don't you try? Why don't you try it
okay.
even? Why don't you try it again? Why don't you eat some more?
I don't. Next time I have some in my inventory, I'll have a little snack.
There's
okay?
a ton in farming shit.
Jacques wants you to eat his meat.
That's one of the ways that we could put that. that is a word.
That is.
choice.
You're right.
All right.
All right. Let me go fight the zombies and find wood. That's my everyday.
Yeah.
What is happening?
We're singing abracadabra.
Why is it happening? Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
Ooh la la. I will. I don't think you understand. My wife loves Lady Gaga, and I'll be in the doghouse if I
That's fair. That's very fair.
misspeak.
Ooh.
I misspoke.
Chad is voting on what I summoned with Barbara's Rhabarberbar. Scipio but demon. Yeah, probably. Summon Clark. I wish.
Clark doesn't love us anymore.
Clark's just
Had to
Clarking
lock-
it in Poland.
He
In
had to lock
Poland.
in on his medical internship. He hasn't been able to game a lot lately.
Yeah.
Medical internship?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's gonna be Dr. Clark.
He's just-
Contacts? Okay.
Yeah, he just finished. I don't remember if it's his residency or if it was just school.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm surprised we even got him for Jax this season because he has been so busy with getting his 3rd degree.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm honored. That would be that's the best thing ever. Just Clark is secretly a genius but doesn't want to tell anyone.
Yeah, there's a man who maxed out his intelligence stat.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just like I'm gonna play the fool just because.
It's the party's the best at.
Yeah, I could school you all, but nah, I'm too humble.
All right.
Clark's a goober.
Spike. Wow, looking good.
Dude, I hit these snakes so easily last time, and now it just doesn't want to whack.
Your hair, whack.
My skills,
I
whack.
love that guy so much.
Why am I so slow?
Oh,
That's your Batman.
I need gas in that spike.
Hole. Diggy hole.
I'm gonna gas up my saber.
My chat asked for cookie.
Who told you to eat my cookies? Put that
nom,
cookie
nom,
down.
nom, nom,
No.
I forgot I have
Hostel
like
Gado? Is that you?
20
It's peanut
cookies
butter.
in
Don't
my,
be allergic.
In my
Are you talking to yourself? Because we're not there.
huh?
I love peanut butter, and I feel sorry for everyone who's allergic.
Me too.
All right, Jack.
Yeah.
I know you're not helping me,
Yeah.
but let's say you were a zombie. All right. Are you in that headspace right now?
I can be in that headspace. What's up?
All right. How deep of a hole would you say would be a deterrent to you as a zombie?
None.
What?
None. You heard me.
No deterrent.
This is not
None
Minecraft.
amount.
Are you saying that no hole will be, or are you
They
saying
will
that
still charge you, and then they will fall into a pit, and then you will have a bunch of zombies in a pit. And then something we talked about earlier will come into play. Now, if there were a bunch of spikes in that pit, that might help.
Okay, because I was gonna put a bunch of pipe bombs in the pit.
Oh,
I mean, you can just you mean throw pipe bombs in the pit?
Yeah, I was gonna dig a big hole and sit on the roof throwing pipe bombs into the hole.
That's not a terrible idea.
Yay.
where you digging, brother? I see you.
So,
Making all-
question: is day 7? Is that just at night or during the next day?
So it's
like
gonna
the whole day.
No, so it's gonna be at 2200. So it's the night of day 7 into day 8, and it will last
Okay,
until
okay.
the morning, or until we kill all the zombies, which we probably won't do.
I want to bet.
Is that possible?
Yes.
I don't think you realize what we're cooking over here. The silence after I said that hurt a little.
No, Lord
We know what you're
Supreme Grand
cooking.
General Admiral Tater the Third.
Tater, I'll say this: your base is better than my first base in this game.
Yay!
Sure.
That
I
said,
found out how
I
to make
died on
funny
my first
trap.
Horde night.
Just out of curiosity, what kind of a percentage are we looking at here for survivability?
It's hard to know. I mean, I'd have to really take a long look at your base to get a better sense for that.
I mean, our biggest flaw is that front door. That's the spookiest spot.
Oh,
We'll
yeah.
probably-
I'm gonna put a lot of spikes there right before the night. Like we're all gonna
Oh
go
my God,
inside.
there's so
and I'm gonna
many
steal
spikes.
us. Dude, this is like half of the spikes that I want. Like this whole day is gonna be diggy
my
hole and
God.
spike in hole.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna make some cobblestone real quick.
See, and this is where beginners to this game get caught up with the base building. They think that
Sure.
you need walls, right? So the thing is that if the zombies can never touch your wall because of the 970 spikes in front of it, it doesn't matter what your wall's made of.
Ow! Ow! We can't even get into the house.
Perfect.
See,
we're
and that's
smarter than zombies,
exactly,
so-
exactly. If you are
Ugh.
dying,
I should probably heal all the way up for tonight.
You guys can't make a chat reward for me to ride my unicycle. My unicycle's at my mom's house. I took it with me when I moved out.
Well, I'll pick it up for you next time I'm there.
God damn it, Jack. I
Back.
walked directly into it. Like,
He's
that
back,
was,
ladies
Yeah,
and
you
gentlemen.
did. Yeah, you did. That was really
You-
good, Jack.
Can you just sense? Do you just have like a mom sense?
My guy,
Yeah.
I am a live entertainer. As soon as it's there, I am pouncing on it.
Yeah.
My mom?
Yeah.
That's what she said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't feel proud of that one, but here we are.
I mean, what's good is good.
What's good is good. And if I could get to any parts of the walls, I would upgrade them for you.
See, and that's what
Can't.
I have thoughtfully prevented you from wasting your resources reinforcing our walls.
I'm so happy by this.
I could hear it in your tone. That sort of like, what is it? Sad. Yeah.
Hey.
Oh, were
that?
you digging deeper?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's
Yeah.
cool. Ow! No, it's cool. No, it's cool. No, it's cool.
I mean, if this doesn't do it, I'm not sure.
Ben,
I mean,
I'm gonna come up here and smite you.
You'll have to get past the spikes first.
I did. I did.
This is an
right.
interesting build.
The house or the wiener that I built in the street?
Yes.
Turning in? No, I haven't been turning in any
can't even get
challenges
in.
yet. I'm very excited to do this. Actually, I wanted to leave them so I could.
so you could what?
Yeah, slurp them up.
Oh. Didn't realize we were doing that. Didn't know there was that kind of party.
So how do you get out on the
sure
roof?
is.
From the inside.
Where inside? Up in the attic?
Yeah.
Okay.
I am gonna fill the entire house with spikes. Also, by the way, just a heads up.
Oh, that's a really good idea for all of us.
Yeah.
Can you not
well,
do that? Just out
No.
of curiosity.
Who's in?
I'm so sorry, sir. I'm so sorry. Sir. No, you're right. I'm so sorry. You can punish me for questioning you now.
I mean, yeah, of course.
That's it. 1 hour of digging in the trenches. Get out here. It's like, what's
I'm
that
trying to just
movie where
upgrade
they
this
punish
wall.
the kids by making them dig holes?
Holes?
Holes? Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa. That's too damn bad.
I did very
I
much
got
enjoy that
professional
movie.
boxer.
Okay.
Waiting for Tater to find out that spikes are a war of attrition.
Well, yeah, that's why I'm building more.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure the spikes won't last. Each spike is only going to take down so many. But if there's a lot of spikes,
Wow, dude. No, punching things is kind of gross.
Yeah.
What? Oh, ew.
if you had a nickel for every time somebody built a penis in the road in this 7 Days to Die game, you'd have 2 nickels. Weird.
Which is weird.
I love the tater laugh. It's so good.
Are you a zombie? I'm gonna test my new punch.
Then say punch.
Oh,
Are you One Punch Man now?
That's kind of insane. No, I'm 3-Punch Man, which is not bad.
Is your strength all the way up?
Not yet.
Oh,
It shows.
No.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, you clearly don't bench
I want you to
285.
remember that when we grapple. I want you to remember that.
I'm gonna do what's the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the pulling guard thing where they just lay down?
I am so excited for you to
Yeah,
try that.
that's gonna be my strat.
That's gonna be really good. That's gonna be really good. He's got strong legs. If you can get me in him. Hey, how conditioned are your thighs?
Not very. I'll be quite honest.
Or are you just gonna thigh kick him?
Well, I actually want that to be one of the videos, but
Yeah.
I need it to be on the last
Kicking-
day so that Tater can
Kicking
leave.
me?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm bringing pads, dude. Like, yeah.
You want help digging this trench?
Well, I'm leaving a little walkway. Yeah, because I need more wood for spikes, but the trees are gone.
Wow.
How deep are you
I
going?
got loot from
I
somebody.
went 3 deep.
Motor tool parts, Handyland 2 copies.
Oh, you
can
turned
of
on
dog
your
food,
integration?
and high power 762.
Nice.
Did you turn on your integrations? Or did your mom?
No. It's the loot from a zombie.
And it just gave it to
Oh, is that the bags that drop when you kill them sometimes?
Yes. Yeah.
me. Yeah, the bag.
I've seen a lot of those.
And never picked one up, right?
No, like I've seen them drop and I've gone, oh, there's a bag there.
Oh my god. I love it. I love it so much.
See the aforementioned
Dude,
Tater and
married.
Christ.
The silence after I talk sometimes when I can just feel Jack like digesting what I'm saying, that's worse than like the immediate response, you know what I mean? When it's like
talk
so
fast.
dumb he has to process.
Listen, I know what I signed up for here, and that's why I'm building a separate base.
And that's why we're following you, Tater. 100%.
Into the abyss, maybe? Into the unknown?
Into the night.
Definitely.
I'll follow you into the night.
Yeah, but like after that, I gotta go home. My mom said so. Like, sorry.
Aww.
Yeah, no, it's okay. We'll just play again tomorrow.
No, not at this rate.
True.
I'm just digging out an outline of your trench. You let me know how deep you want.
There's a joke there.
Hey,
Also-
go
ahead.
Hey, real content creators, I have an ethical question.
Real content.
Real content creator. Yeah, go ahead. No. Ben, let him have it. Go ahead.
Get in there.
I was gonna stream, like, at some point while I'm prepping for min-max because I get, like, bored making battle maps. Would that be, like, bad if people saw the battle maps for min-max beforehand? Would that, like...
I will
people
say
be
that
upset
Spoil
with me?
things?
I would consider that a spoiler,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
which sucks because
Which-
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I
Which,
agree.
Tater-
I understand. I understand
way-
every bit of that.
Tater, I've been talking to Dark Hour, and you're a madman.
Oh
I'm so excited.
my!
I sent them the stuff. It took me a sec.
No, I know. They told me your plans. Or at least the ones I needed to know, and I'm like, oh my god.
Heh. Yeah, not min-max spoiler, but mild spoiler. I've officially decided I was too nice last season,
Good.
and I'm about to really hard pivot.
So excited.
Yeah,
Min-max
Aw,
hard
thank you.
mode.
this is my Empire Strikes Back moment.
I am so excited for this. There are no words to express my joy.
Do we need to have a counselor on staff or anything for?
No, but like, if you guys want to bring some board games to play when your characters are dead, you know. I don't
Yeah. That sounds good.
know.
No, we're just gonna play your Switch and gang up on you and smash.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Honestly, based move. I just say I am certain we have it in the budget for like one more ticket if we don't all cover it. I know a therapist.
Have a good night, Panda. So we're definitely, you know, as time gets closer, finding out where Jack's base is and taking it for ourselves, right?
I mean, if we need to,
Yo,
if we
hold on,
need
there's a
to.
deer.
However,
I have to get out my special deer killing weapon.
is it a moped?
It's my bicycle.
That's your
Oh.
bicycle. I want to ride my
All right.
bicycle.
So last
Agreed.
time I looted this deer, I got yelled at by my chat for not using a knife because apparently
Yeah,
a sledgehammer
you
is a bad.
You should
so
get
I
yelled
don't
at.
have a knife. I threw my knife away because it seemed stupid. So everybody look away for a second while I loot this deer with a sledgehammer. I don't own a knife. Okay.
There's
I
a
don't
knife
have
in the
one.
weapons chest. My Tater in so many
He
Christs.
simply does not have one.
I'm also throwing away everything except for the meat because it doesn't seem like it would be useful to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like playing video games with Tater. He makes me feel good at them.
Oh no!
Wait,
Oh, savage.
what is that supposed to mean?
Savage.
What is that
That you're
supposed
bad
to
at video games and you make
Oh,
poor decisions.
no.
use the bone for a
That's the
knife?
calm Binsei saying that too.
Weird.
That's crazy.
I got some bone from looting that deer, but I threw it all away because it didn't seem useful. That's very odd.
You can turn, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it do be like that.
I do distinctly at one point remember saying that everything in this game is useful in some way or another, except for paper.
Except for paper. Yeah.
Yeah, I also remember that.
Do you?
But oh no, I you know. Nah.
Yeah.
Nah.
Hi guys.
If things, so my philosophy here is that if things are really important, Jack will have one for me. You know,
I ain't no helicopter parent. Sink or swim, bitch.
you literally were a helicopter parent and you killed me in the helicopter.
That's true.
Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah, but you had it
Yeah,
coming.
yeah. He had it coming.
He had it
I really-
coming. He tried
There
to
you go.
steal my gyrocopter, and so I shot him.
I did.
Yes,
steal
I
it.
got
I
him.
did steal it.
I shot
for a
him
little
right
bit.
out of the sky there.
That was really good. That was
Yeah,
really
alright.
good.
Yeah,
It was
that
a
was
little
good.
rough
Good.
landing, but I'm certain the helicopter landed much better.
Yeah,
so
I was gonna say.
yeah.
It was
Yeah,
about as rough as the landing of that helicopter when I shot Tater out of it.
Amazing. So you just went wild boar hunting and it was just Tater?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you must kill it at karaoke night.
Honestly, I feel like he does.
Jack, you're good at making up funny little like quippy songs. You ever thought about doing that like professionally?
Oh man, I
Professionally?
totally
Yeah.
should.
Yeah. You ever
Yeah.
considered that? I feel like you do good.
I don't know if there's
in
really a
some sort
market
of-
for that though.
I mean, I know you have your cute thing that you do at what are they called? Ren fairs? You have the little baby
cute
performances,
thing.
but maybe you could make that bigger, you know?
Yeah.
No.
We can expand that.
Yeah.
And we could help you, you know?
Yeah,
Is there
that's
a
right.
way-
We'll get it on the ground floor with you.
Yeah, and you'll get a percentage, of course, a very normal
Okay,
percentage.
of course. Yeah.
A very normal
I'll do tech.
percentage of 50%
Ooh.
for everybody involved.
Yeah, Ben will do the...
There's a
Mansion.
poll in
What's
my
up?
chat about what item Tater should give me for Min-Max Season 2. The options are Ring of Mom Enthrallment, Whip of No Cracks,
God, dude.
a microphone of constant muting, a sack of free birds, or a pouch of infinite Old Bay.
The Old Bay one I would actually give you. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
no,
like the
yeah,
alchemy
you did-
jug, except spices.
Yeah.
Overrated
I feel like
spices.
Overrated spices.
I said what I
My
said.
dad felt the same way.
In a,
He
in
was
a
like, yeah, it's
related
good.
related avenue, if I gave you guys a decanter of endless mayonnaise, how long would it be before you misused that item?
A day.
3 seconds.
Before we took a long rest, it would be misused.
Okay. Right.
I think we would choose one person in the party and coat them in mayonnaise and turn them into the mayonnaise monster, and send them after people. I think that person would be Clark. Yeah, it would be 3 seconds.
Yeah. So normally, like what I've seen with that item is like waterboarding people, but with mayo is like the go-to.
Oh, no.
That's awesome. I like that. Thanks
Ooh.
for the idea.
I'm morally
Yeah.
gray. I'm down to do that.
Yeah.
I'm
Tater,
chaotic
next time,
good.
Jack-
I'm good, but I'm chaotic good.
Of course.
Next time Jack is at a Ren fair near you, you should go and troll him. He never comes to any Ren fairs. It's just terrible.
Yeah. Honestly, he's kind of a no-show at Ren's, and that's crazy.
Yeah.
Aren't you literally doing a rent right now?
Yeah, Tater was literally in my
No.
show at the Ren Fair this past weekend.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Tater had a great time holding a target for my whip right next to his crotch.
I am
Hey,
He had a
so
blast.
excited. I'm so excited to hold a target for you, Jack. You've no idea. I'm so pumped. It'll be great. It'll be great.
It'll be fun.
Be a good time.
It'll be all good.
Yep.
I made
So the
Tater
goal
do
is to
squats too.
flinch and pull. Good, as you
Terrible.
should.
Yeah.
Hey, I hear that he likes to do a lot of push-ups very quickly.
Oh no, we didn't do push-ups. No, we only did squats.
No.
Oh.
And they weren't even real squats. Not that I could do real squats either.
Tater, sir, will you check my hole?
I'm sorry. We need to.
Supreme Leader, check
You
my
you
hole.
brought this upon yourself, buddy. You brought this upon yourself.
All right, sir.
No one to
Maybe a
blame but
Tater
yourself.
Christ.
All right,
you rather
Supreme Leader
Call
has
you
a new
Daddy?
rule.
Yeah.
Well, before you talk, I want you to say the thing in your head in the Right.
Oh, I do.
Okay,
And
okay.
it sounds great in my head.
All right. Well, let me finish getting this wood, and then I'll go over and check your hole.
Thanks. I appreciate it. What are
Hey, Tater, I'm going to need you to say things in your head before you say them out loud.
Oh, that's a tree. I don't
Supreme Leader, I've got dirt in my hole. Will you scoop it out with a shovel?
I don't remember where our house is.
Look for my hole.
So do the market.
Is this whole bit old yet? I think we got a couple more runs out of it.
Yeah.
No. Wait for a couple minutes and do it again.
Yeah, I agree. H. Marrier, I do agree. We do need a Tater and Christ shirt. Like, I couldn't agree more.
I would buy that, yeah.
Also, Dr. Dictator Tater? Dr. Dictator Tater.
Yeah.
I would really like to posit to the community that we call that Dr. Dictator.
Yeah.
I was.
Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah. The
Dr.
Dictator.
Dictator.
Well,
yes.
no, hold up. Now that I've spaced out the wording, it didn't sound as good. The Dictator?
No, you're okay. Yeah. You're good.
Yeah.
I had one of my teachers.
Feel the tatering.
One of my teachers told us a story in class about one of his students calling him a dictator minus the spuds. Literally those exact words. He said, "You're a dictator minus the spuds." He got sent to the office, but he got like a high five on the way out the door. He was like,
"Yeah, I was gonna say,
don't say that.
That's street cred right there. That's what that is."
That was really funny. Don't say that. Yeah. Oh, they're zombies.
Who put zombies in my zombie survival crafter? This is ridiculous.
Dare you?
I wish you could overdrink liquid and it would make you have to use the restroom.
Level up,
I don't know what mechanic that would serve, but that is funny.
I did that in real life, if that means anything to you.
Means that I need to keep you away from your liquids until you finish the rest of your food.
Yeah. Oh, that's not where I meant to put that spike. Well, it's there now.
Whoa. What is this hole?
I saw that face. I saw the face that went along with that,
There was a zombie bear in there, and I'm leaving.
Oh, did you go in the bear den?
Apparently.
Yeah. Fight the bears, drink for free.
You say it like he should have just known that it was a bear den.
I mean, like, it says the bear den outside, and it says fight the bears, drink for free.
Well, you know...
That's why he said that. That makes sense now.
Yeah, the game does give you hints about what you might encounter.
Well, that means that I would have had to have had a public education that was good enough for me to read.
I mean, that's Ohio. Yeah, I'm here. I'm there with. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, it's not bad. But
it's not Oklahoma.
Oh no, there's a snake.
I was gonna say ours is terrible.
Right.
The lowest of the low. What is happening?
No, you're not Alabama. You're not Mississippi. You're not Oklahoma.
Hater, did you light up that poor snake?
Yeah, I don't like snakes.
Did you just waste all of our ammo on the snake?
No, we've got so much ammo.
I wasted 15 bullets.
It doesn't sound like we do.
Okay.
It doesn't sound like we have that much ammo.
Came from you breaking the ice with a rock. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. This is my shtick. Dude, guys, I have had so many videos lately pop off, and I have been so happy.
Hell yeah.
I got one at like 18 million and another at like 22.
Damn,
dude. Yeah, no, they're like on all platforms. We're in the multi-millions for all of the videos. Cooking. So it's going really well. I'm so pleased. It's nice to have them do that.
Hell yeah.
Like yesterday for YouTube was like $500. So
hell yeah, dude.
Yeah. It's not. It's like obviously, is it as much as I want it to be? No, I have a life that I would like to live, and that involves a house. But like, is it continuing to get better and better every month? Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, thank you. It's cool to have a group of people I can talk to about this directly that aren't either my family or my significant other, because both of them hear about it all the time. But like, there's a level of understanding that comes with doing social media work where it's like, hey, YouTube paid me $500 for a day. And it's like, okay. How many times have you gotten money like that? It's like, well, it's usually like 100 a day. So popping for 500 is not bad. You know, we'll take it. Getting there.
Well, and it's hard to like prove income for like mortgages and stuff.
Oh yeah,
It takes like a whole year, and you're like, did I actually make good money this year? No.
You know what? I am kind of a freak. By the way, chat, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. You're the reason that it happened. You're the ones that did it. You need to clap yourselves on the back for that. You're the reason that I get to live. Thank you. So like one of the things that's really weird is I've started to come to love tax season. Like,
yeah,
I know. Let me walk you through it. So I have unmedicated ADHD.
Sure.
Which means I am trying to make it till tomorrow. That's all I'm doing. I maybe like a month or two in advance, but like I'm trying to make it till tomorrow. So when I get to sit down at the end of the tax season and actually see how much work I've done, because I think of money as work, right? It's the work that I've done manifested as a piece of paper or credit or, you know, something like that, that tells me, hey, you busted your butt exactly this hard. Here's how much you made. So I get to sit down. I usually get myself like a drink of some kind, usually non-alcoholic because I'm me. But I'll get something non-alcoholic. I'll get myself a nice meal, and I will sit down at my computer and start doing all my taxes. And I get to celebrate. I get to go, oh yeah, that month when I went to go do Min-Max Season 2, I also got this, I got paid for this. Those videos did well. And I get to sit down and really see how hard I've been working. And usually, at least it hasn't changed yet, every year there's more money than there was the previous year. So I get to tell myself I'm doing a good job.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's the least toxic way I could look at it, you know? Because otherwise, ew, numbers, my entire life.
I just look at it as having to write a check. Yeah. I don't like that.
Yeah. Well, I offer you the paradigm shift, and I hope it helps if you choose to take it. It's really cool. Because then you go, you know, I'm not excited about how much I'm going to have to pay, but holy cow, the fact that I've done this well this year means that everything I'm trying to do with the life that I want to live and the dreams that I have is working. And I can't be upset at that. You know?
Jack, is there liquids here for me to drink?
Just put them in cooked food.
No. You're not allowed. Oh, Jack, are you, like, keeping him alive?
Apparently. Much to my surprise.
Chagrin.
Thanks, buddy.
You know, if he dies, then we get to choose.
If he dies, he dies.
Yeah, it's not. It's like indirect mutiny.
Some of you may die.
So,
but that is a sacrifice I'm willing to make.
Are you really big into pirates?
What?
Yes, I think pirates are pretty dope.
So I recently got really into pirates and like the actual like business side of being a pirate.
Oh yeah, been a privateer.
Yeah. And then like the whole industry and how like it was branding and all that.
Yeah, dude.
And how like all the loot's separate equally, everyone has contracts and everything. Like that's an actual like business.
Yeah.
I forgot where I was going with this.
You just gotten into piratry. And
No,
all
we were
the
talking
neat
about
stuff
something.
around it. We were talking about taxes, and we were talking about tax season and all the hard work done. And...
No, it's okay. I can't remember.
Okay.
No, mutiny. We were talking about mutiny. The
Perfect.
the captain. Everyone can vote on a new captain if they want to at any time, except for during combat.
That's
So what are you
insane.
saying? So if you want to replace Tater, you have to do it now before the
Correct.
Horde night?
Before the zombies happens. Yeah. So if we need to vote
Makes
them
sense.
out of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Tracks.
No, but you wouldn't want to. You wouldn't want to vote on that, right?
So, Ben,
Right?
just let me know when you want to start voting.
Yeah. Okay. I will. do we do like a ballad Dropbox type situation, or like what are we doing?
Yeah, I figure we're at Discord. You can just like whisper to me.
I was
or
gonna say,
something.
can I mail it? Can I mail it over?
Yeah.
Is that okay? All right, cool. That's not illegal
What's it-
yet. Anyway.
Well, no, but as the
oh, no.
leader, as the leader, I am in charge.
Well, maybe you should
Oh.
share one.
Yeah, that's part of
Yeah.
that's part of my reign as leader. So if you can all send your, and then
Votes to
I
you?
will, and then I
Let us
promise
know.
that I will let you know what the election results are.
what gets tabulated? Hey,
You got it,
that's
man.
really honorable. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. I have a follow-up question for you if you're taking those.
Nope.
Very good. Thank you so
No.
much. Awesome. Have a good day.
He just leaves the podium. Nope.
Yeah. Honestly,
Best yes
kind
and
of a
I've ever
power
had.
move. Kind of a power move.
All right, Tater, I got your ditches dug. You want,
It's
what do
day
you want?
7. Are you guys excited?
I am. I'm excited to watch my flawless defenses murder this zombie horde efficiently.
You know, I think it's better than it could be. I think that we should be a little alarmed, but
There's no flying zombies, right?
They're jumping zombies, but no flying zombies.
do we get zombie vultures?
Oh yeah, you do. Yeah, I forgot about
they're
those.
flying zombies.
That's why I'm gonna cover the roof in spikes.
So
Where can we stand? It's not spiked.
I will leave one little square, one little tile for each of us.
yeah,
So nice of you.
hey Tater,
Yeah, what's up, man?
what did those votes read?
99% in favor of me remaining the captain.
That's so weird since there's only 2 of us.
Yeah, like the most it could be, it'd be either 100 or 50.
No, there was
Yeah.
198 write-in for me to remain in charge.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
Wow.
won.
So honorable.
how many people? are in the stream?
1,000% of the populace voted for me. It was
It's pretty crazy, man.
Ben say it looks like you're trying to sneak up behind me with a rock right now.
No,
That's so weird. Why
No,
would you?
Tater,
Why
I
would you?
simply,
Why would
I
you do that?
simply wish to massage your back vigorously
Oh,
with this.
back massage.
What is it? What is it called? What's the thing that? Gua sha. It's a gua sha. Yes.
So I know
Yes,
death is meaningless, but if Tater dies, does that de facto turn and make a new leader?
Yeah, it makes
Could.
you the leader.
You
Sure.
could.
Yeah.
No. You can be the leader. It's fine.
No, please, I insist.
I know. I insist. I don't.
Hey
The
Ben.
zombies voted?
Hey Ben.
Yeah.
How much money do you have on you?
A lot.
Can I have about
Like
4,000?
1,000.
Oh, never mind.
Okay, not
But
that much then.
No, don't worry about it.
I
I mean,
have-
you know, this is a gift. This is a gift.
I have 8,000. You want some monies?
Ooh.
I will, yeah, because
Yeah.
I actually also have a gift for you. Hey Ben, I'm dropping something
Yes.
on the ground. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. I'm the
Oh,
captain
you look
now.
so fun. I like your spinny hat. Oh, a true blessing, friend. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're about to be too much, man. By the way, you're still wearing primitive armor, and we have a lot of armor in the armor chest. You might want to
Okay,
wear better
I'll go
armor.
snag some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my, those are vicious. What is
Yeah.
this? What am I looking at?
That is the final.
That-
That is the end game. Knuckles. He had them for sale,
Wow.
and I just spent a lot of money.
Wow. Thank you so much. Well, I'll tell you what, I got 1,000 to throw your way for that. It's the least I can do. And as you
I'll
know
be
now,
okay.
I hoard wealth and don't spend it. No, not like that, guys. Don't get upset. I'd share.
1,000 is not a whole lot. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Jack is helping Ben in a way that seems suspicious. It's only suspicious when he helps me. Jack is very, very helpful to everyone else.
Yeah.
Almost done
wants
with
to see
this.
me fail.
Oh, okay. Now I'm done.
Huh?
Now your trenches are all done. Now I just need you to fill them with spikes. Oh, what happened to my torch? There it is.
The zombies voted. They're crazy.
Okay, more spikes.
Yeah, as if we
Thank
could
you.
possibly fit more spikes.
I'm crafting another stack of 50 right now.
Oh, hey, so also so that it's known somewhere for the streamers and the lovelies, that Tank Tolman challenge for smashing watermelons, I said 2 weeks later I would take all the extra money from the videos and throw that in as well. Well, it was like a month before I got my YouTube payment, so I threw in a little extra and just tabulated everything that we had. It was like an extra $100, which is great.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, because I keep on top of that. And you guys gave me money last month for new headphones, so I will be buying new headphones.
Nice.
That'll just have to happen after min-max because, you know, I'm gonna go to Texas and vibe with the fam.
You want help picking out headphones?
I
You got
do,
some in
Andrew.
mind?
I most certainly do. Yes, I will happily take advice and help.
Which headphones are you rocking, Andrew?
These are old Bose right now. I was thinking,
I mean, those
Hondo
work.
600s for him, but
I use the the Hyper X's, and I am very, very happy with them.
You like those?
Yeah, I've had two
Yeah.
renditions of them, but I forgot them at home one day, so when I went on tour, so I had to get a new one, and now the old pair is my wife's pair.
Nice.
Wonderful.
But that's the mic I'm
great,
using
Echo.
right now.
It sounds really good.
I don't know if anyone ever told you this, but your wife's a delight.
Yes, she is.
Yeah, yeah,
Really
That's
cool.
my wife.
I know.
She seems like, so if we've got Black Cat, like mischievous from Jack, she seems like a Saint Bernard. Like she just seems solid as a human being.
That is like probably the worst dog breed you could have picked. But
Okay. Well, elaborate for me so that I could do better.
the running joke is that a Saint Bernard is really ugly.
I see.
yeah.
I don't think of that. I definitely think of them as a sturdy, studious dog.
Yeah.
Like that.
Studious.
Yeah.
I like to say that she's husky is probably not the right one, but husky is her favorite breed of dog.
Mm-hmm.
So
That makes sense.
They're good.
but she does
man.
not scream as much as a husky.
No, that doesn't seem to be the case.
That said,
that
if
makes
you ever
sense.
want to make her laugh, literally just play the sound of huskies like howling at sirens. Yeah.
I mean, she does.
yeah.
She kind of exudes cat energy too, or she's just kind of
No,
quiet and put together. And no, okay, maybe she's
not a
around.
cat. No, I am the cat.
Jack is a
Yeah.
cat.
I mean,
But
I did
actually-
deny that one. No, and
And I'm the raccoon, apparently.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
your little crummy your raccoon-like fingers. You're the greatest technician. You're the greatest DM that's ever existed.
Yippee.
That's ever lived. That's what it was. Yeah.
So the clock is going a little slower than I'm thinking. So I'm thinking maybe like in about 20 minutes I will just advance it to Horde night time because we're coming up on the 2.5-3 hour mark.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Sure, that sounds like a good.
Where's your spikes,
Sounds like a
man? Where's your
fun call.
spikes?
How
Are they
interesting.
just literally called spikes? Yeah, wood spike traps. I
Yeah,
will
wood
make
spikes.
as much as I can, which is 2 apparently. This costs so much wood. No wonder you were
it
tearing
really
down
does.
trees.
It really does.
What is holy Hannah?
True inspiration for us younger
Yeah,
generations.
I've been working.
Hannah Montana.
I prefer Lizzie McGuire, but yeah,
Really? Why is that?
because it's the funnier answer to give in that moment. That's pretty much it. I preferred That's So Raven because it was ridiculous.
Oh, I missed that show, man.
It was so good.
That was a good show. Real funny too. I still have nightmares about that one monkey episode.
Bro, that was brutal.
Where he stole the keychain. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where who do what? God, Ben, there's so much wood.
Menace.
No,
Yeah.
the wood requirements for this thing is crazy.
It's kind of insane.
Come to the good luck.
So you missed it, Ben, but we had the Twitch integrations on last time,
Oh yeah,
and they would do things like be like, no more vehicles. So it would hurt to be on your bicycle. I'm like, oh no.
Oh, that's
Couldn't get
insane.
anywhere fast.
Yeah, there were a lot of them.
They're silly little goobers, aren't they?
And then like just like zombies would spawn on you like no one's business, and then they would have the chatter's name on it, so it'd be like Macbethy or something like that. I'm like, what's happening?
Spectacular. No,
Good times.
that sounds like a great time. I'm sad I missed it. I very much enjoyed being in Florida, though. That was nice.
Florida.
Yeah.
Did you go to Disney World?
No, we were in Orlando, but we stayed at a resort and hung out with Echo's family, who she hadn't gotten to see in like 3 years. So we just had some time. And I gotta say, I mean, leave it to Ben to be insightful, but it was a pleasure to meet Raven all over again, as I got to meet her family.
Yeah. I was gonna say, what's her family like? She's pretty cool too, but like
She is pretty cool. Lots of
imagine.
unmedicated ADHD. Yeah. And I got to meet her younger sister, who behaves apparently exactly like Raven did when she was a kid. That child is Taz the Tasmanian Devil. Her nickname is Crash. So everything in all directions, whatever the funniest choice is, will be done, and without a second thought, consequences will happen later.
consequences be damned.
Yeah. So I was like, how did you survive till adulthood, Raven? She's like, quite honestly, your guess is as good as mine. I'm like, okay, understood.
Hey, Kinetic, I am the greatest technician that's ever lived, and I challenge him to otherwise.
Yeah, ain't that a fact?
Do you guys know this meme?
No, not at all.
Okay, there's another tech YouTuber that he's claims to be the greatest technician that's ever lived, and he has his tiny raccoon-like fingers. He's great.
I see. We need more wood. Is that a thing?
Oh, I'm working on it.
Hey, that's real cool. Maybe you shouldn't do that on stream, huh? Thanks. Anyway, mind goblins, am I right? Bro,
Yeah, dude, mind goblins.
they're crazy. They go stupid. So I hear Texas is hot during the summer.
Dude. Yeah.
Oh, I've been told we'll have AC, so it'll be at least in the 70s.
Oh, nice.
I don't
Oh,
know
that's
how
fine.
armor class is gonna help us, but
Yeah, for sure. I was gonna say there's gonna be a lot of Bensei and mesh shirts because I sweat profusely. I am part water genasi. It's bad.
Well, and the fact we won't have running fans in the same room with the mics are, it's gonna be great.
Yeah, I'm gonna be a gross sweaty goblin man. So
Jack, you're gonna let us know before you advance time, correct?
Yeah.
okay,
Great. I just didn't know if it suddenly advanced and it's night. I'm like, no.
Somehow the horde returned.
Yes, we are making punji pits. By the way, thank you so much for noticing our war crimes.
why is there a
War.
poll in my chat on how fast the base is gonna break?
Hey, what are they saying?
I don't know, but they voted on if I should remain was 95 in favor of me remaining supreme leader. Don't check.
Okay,
Don't
okay,
check.
okay. Don't check. I won't. I trust you, Commander Supreme Commandant of
Jack,
the
can you check
13th
for
Order
me?
of
I
the
can't-
17th Battalion of the
Hey, can
Regiment
one of my
of-
mods tell me what it was?
Yeah. Also,
One of my mods who are also one of Tater's mods.
Someone said Tater failed his own rigged election. What does that mean? What might that mean?
I was trying to censor the media.
It's in Discord. I can't look at Discord because my phone is where I'm looking at chat.
He was lying. It was 92% no. Thank you.
Oh.
I couldn't find. I was trying to censor the media and delete a comment saying that I lost, but I couldn't figure out how to delete a comment.
Sure.
Yeah. It's my first time being a dictator.
That's okay. So in the future, Tater, we frame that as when people ask how did the vote go, you say it was good. It was 92%. And then you do not answer further.
Yeah. No, it's a good move.
Oh, Jack, do you spend
and
that money?
say, well, who voted
Nah, don't
for
worry
you?
about
And you say, I said it was good. It was 92%. Is 92% not good? And then you start pushing it on to them, so they have to defend themselves for their words. And then it moves things away from you.
I just salvaged my axe instead of making an axe on it.
So
You're a silly fella.
there are some weapons in the weapons and ammo chest. Most notably, a level 3 AK-47, a level 5 lever action rifle,
Okay.
a level 4 double barrel shotgun, and then a bunch of like shitty stuff, maybe like a pistol or something like that. But yeah, you may want to figure out like what weapon you're going to be rocking.
I would like the lever action if that doesn't bother anybody too much. I'm
So
good at
Ben,
shots on target.
Ben, I'm gonna be honest. You should take the AK because you're in fortitude, and so you can level up the machine gunner skill.
Oh, okay. That sounds good.
Yeah. Someone who's in strength should take the shotgun, and the lever action rifle is kind of like.
Greetings, people of YouTube.
But you can
Hello,
you can put an 8x scope on the lever action rifle.
Yeah, we're trying to do a
that's
distance,
my-
right?
Yeah.
Jack, I'm in third person now, and I don't know how to stop.
Press the
being
squiggly
here.
button above tab.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, the
Tilde.
tilde. Yeah. We know our tilde keys. That's how I entered in cheats and Fate.
There you go.
Yeah. The throwback for anybody that likes their games.
Is a lever action rifle better than a hunting rifle? Yeah,
Significantly.
Great, cool, great.
Yeah, the lever action rifle can
And
shoot
then-
more than one shot without needing to reload.
Nice.
Yeah,
And
Nico, I
then
can only imagine that the theater
8
sets
times
are
scope.
hot.
That's nice.
Yeah, I put a 2x scope on it already, but you might play around with the 8x.
All right, let's.
I've been smacking trees for so long.
How long?
How long have the stream's been going for? 2 hours 30 minutes. About 2 hours 30 minutes.
5 shots. Nice.
Oh,
Should kind of make me want to play
Thank you.
Minecraft.
That's what we're doing.
yeah,
We're hanging on the road.
honestly, Tater, you let me know anytime. I'll add you to the realm.
sheep.
Nerd guy, who has been bullying you in your chat, Tater, said, Bensei, counter to my common bullying of Tater, I hope that your next sip of coffee is the perfect amount of scalding, while as flavorful as an eclair. Thank you. Thank you, nerd
messed
guy.
up. That's so
I
messed
appreciate you.
Is there a way to compare what armor you have on now to what we have? Like what's in the?
Not easy. I think if you hover over it, it should show you like some things.
Okay.
Like whether it's better, like whether the stats are better or worse than what you have on you.
Oh, I actually don't even need to go in there. I'm going to go get the things. I'm going to eat this.
Okay.
Yum, 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 yum.
So it looks like this
Yum, yum,
build's
yum,
better in
yum.
all regards.
Yeah.
A little sip.
It's like the armor plating mod and this
Lever action has a faster rate of fire, says the
I'm
chat.
putting fort bites into cooked food. Someone's gonna want to take. Wait, where did I put the fort bites? Someone's gonna want to take those fort bites that significantly lower your damage.
Okay.
Ben, you're gonna want to take
lower your damage.
that lower the damage that you take.
Ah.
Yeah.
That makes more sense.
What do I need to take, Jack? What were you saying?
Fort bites. I mean, like wait until we get into combat.
Sure, of course.
But yeah.
Is
I am-
AK-762?
Yeah.
Okay.
And like you guys should probably also pack some pistols as well. Those take 9mm. I have most of the
Yeah.
9mm because I have the SMG. I'm gonna do a little quick break before we start, and then when I get back, we will make it Horde night time.
Let me head back to the base. I gotta go pee.
Yeah.
I drank too much
Yeah.
Powerade and caffeine.
Yeah,
You
that
got
makes sense.
I don't remember where the base is.
Yeah, I'm healed all the way up. I am thirsty. I need to put in this into raw food. Take. some of this. So good. So I'm so ready for this. I'm not ready for this.
We're gonna do great. It's gonna be awesome.
Honestly, I think we're probably not going to be that bad.
I think. Oh yeah, no.
Where I'm hyping it up for the
Yeah,
chat.
no,
What are you
okay,
guys
yeah,
doing?
we're being optimistic. My bad.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I don't know if we're gonna make it, guys.
Oh no!
I think you guys are new to this or something. It's so-
Womp
Womp womp. Okay, I'll put all those
Okay.
spices back. We don't need
then
this
this-
clip anymore.
Where is my my boom
Oh wait,
stick?
I can still. Let me go upgrade some of the walls. Still, I still got.
How many
I got-
fort bites will I need, Jack?
He's not here.
Oh, that's right. Just one. I'm gonna assume just one.
He's having a poopy.
That makes sense.
Ammo weapons.
Uh-oh,
I'm taking a
stinky.
pistol. I was told to do that, and I'm taking the shotgun. He said to take.
Just watched Meteor Hammer. Haha, so cool. Thank you so much. I'm glad you guys enjoy the Meteor Hammer stuff. It's kind of the only thing I do other than being silly.
Where? What shotgun did he tell me to take?
I don't know which one he told you to take. I'm certain it's like the Updog one.
Not the
Oh.
updog one.
I'll ask him to when he gets back. Oh,
You'll
meds.
ask him about Updog?
Meds sound like something that I should have on me.
I think you're scared of medicine.
I don't like taking pills in real life.
Sure,
So, like, you're not
respectable.
far off.
Sure.
Excuse me. Apologies.
Oh, sham sandwiches.
Your
Oh,
favorite.
nice. You should eat all of those and never put them down.
Oh, son of a gun! Look at that. There's the knife that people were yelling at me about. Look.
And make it bludgeoning that makes it a meteor hammer? Yes, yes. Bludgeoning is a meteor hammer.
Ah, I've
Like, that's
crafted
the
500
important part.
items.
Yeah, I don't know what.
Chat, how long do you think we'll last? I need numbers. Ranging from seconds to days.
I'm gonna go pee while Jack is gone because I need him to tell me what gun to grab. I'll be back in a sec.
I thought you should. Okay.
Makes sense.
You're gonna take a bio break too and leave me alone with this chat?
That'll be fine. So you walk through the spike traps, right?
I would very gently, yeah.
Okay.
Like on the just like center yourself.
Right. I was going to say, I mean, like you can walk through the actual spike trap itself.
No.
No, it's
It
a
will
solid.
stab you.
Well, yes, but it's a solid.
Oh no,
Or-
you can walk through it. It'll just hurt. Yeah.
Okay,
I see what you're
so I set up the spike traps at the top layer of the hole so that zombies would fall in. And instead of it being down on the ground, it's up at head height for them. So I don't know if that will do more damage, but I'm hoping
Oh
that
no,
it will.
we're digging ditches so they would fall onto the spikes and get stuck, and then just kind of kill themselves in the hole.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the same general vibe. But if they can fall through, then it shouldn't be an issue, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're about to test it. If they can fall through the spikes, then they should fall all the way down and still be stuck on the spikes. Like, they'll still have to deal with it.
All right, my
But if
chat's saying 5 to 8 minutes. Sorry, go ahead. Just
No, you
how
go.
long we're gonna last. No, that's it.
Yeah,
But yeah,
5 to 8 minutes?
Yeah, that's what the one person in my chat says.
That's how long they're saying the base is going to last.
How long we're gonna last?
Jack.
With someone dies.
Okay.
Welcome back, Jack.
I'm back.
What gun am I grabbing? You said there
Uh,
was one.
Let me look and see.
Big guns.
Get out of it so I can look.
Getting up. Oh my god, you look like a dork.
Take the shotgun, take the pistol, And whoever has the AK did not take nearly enough ammo.
Oh, I need more?
Yeah.
Okay. I will take more.
But yeah, basically, like, take any weapons that have not been claimed. I would take, like, just, like, whoever's got the 7.62 weapons, take all the, split the 7.62 between you. Bensei will need more because he's got an automatic weapon, but yeah, take it all.
Okay. I took 300. That's not enough?
Oh, no.
Okay, understood.
Hey, that's
150
concerning.
straight.
The way
More?
that you said that fills me with worry.
For reference, I have about 1,500 9mm on me.
Oh, okay. I'm going to go get some more.
Yeah. Make sure you have
Probably
first
should've.
aid supplies. Make sure you have food. Make sure you have water. Make sure you
Did,
have
I
repair
did.
kits.
I didn't take any repair kits. That's a
Yeah,
good idea.
yeah, I would
What
take
is that?
4.
Does that not just repair robots? Does it repair other things?
A repair kit will repair your guns.
I see.
Yeah. Ooh.
Oh, I should take these steroids. I'm gonna need steroids for this.
What's your stat,
it's
brother?
actually,
What's your run?
it's actually not a terrible idea. Because steroids will prevent injuries, critical injuries like broken limbs or sprains from getting worse.
Yeah, I am gonna hop on so much trend for this.
There you go. I'm gonna take some dynamite with me.
Okay.
Where is...
Blam! That's what it's gonna look like when I see a zombie. Blam! So how is Clark winning the who's gonna die first poll? What the fuck?
Which one do you think is Clark, chat? I want you to know.
I would
No,
like to know
No,
as
they
well.
know. They know exactly who Clark is.
Yeah, no, I think that they just have no faith in him.
How many fort bites should I take with me? I have 2.
That should be fine. So the thing about vitamins are also good. I would take 3 vitamins each and take them as soon as the Horde Night starts. All 3 of them. So buffs like that, yeah. So buffs like that. The cool thing about them, they can stack up to 3 times.
Okay.
All right.
I have herbal antibiotics. I've got 5 first aid bandages, 1 first aid kit. I'm going to take another 5 first aid bandages just in case.
Cool. I'm going to make a small
okay, so,
improvement
like-
to your base.
Okay.
So, like,
Yeah.
I get program-wise why people can't all use the same chest at the same time, but like,
It's annoying.
come on, man.
Yeah, it
It's
is
not-
annoying. Keep in mind there are pipe bombs and Molotovs, I think, in there, so they're not a bad thing to have on you.
Health. Okay. All right.
Those are secret tools that will.
Pipe
help
bombs
us
are good to
later.
have on you.
Little mouse tools. Where is...
Especially whoever has the shotgun, because the shotgun's not going to do a whole lot.
Where's the repair kit?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like,
Thing.
yeah, the shotgun's a close-range weapon, and we're not going to be very close range, ideally.
Where's the repair kit?
Rock lobsters.
Rock lobsters.
Oh,
Right.
Ben, don't tell our glorious leader, but I have some supplies in the house too.
Cool. Good.
That's a really good idea.
I probably don't need all this raw meat. Huh? That's probably not a good use of an inventory slot.
No. It's good.
Yeah, you're oh my.
All right, I got bombs. I got bullets. I got.
Why did you turn these into Minecraft stairs?
Because it will slow
Jack,
the
you said
zombies
there
down.
was, there
Okay,
was
good.
something specific that I should take because I have a shotgun. What was that?
Explosives.
Oh, yeah, I
Molotovs,
got it.
pipe bombs, etc.
Oh, don't you worry.
Good.
Okay, so who's standing at the front door? Is that me? Because I have an AK?
I mean, ideally, we barricade the front door.
Yeah, it's. Oh, I got stuff.
So
All right, are we ready to lock ourselves in the house?
we're
'Cause
ready.
one-
We're ready.
All right, let me put the finishing touches on this bad boy. Just
Ooh,
take my
is
idea
right.
to have
Ladder.
supplies.
Oh, Ben.
Yeah.
Actually,
Bottom crate.
let me check one thing real quick.
All right, check.
Understood.
top crate's junk, so
Okay.
I'll be up in the roof with the shotgun or the rifle,
Thank you.
taking pot shots.
Sounds good. I'm about to do the same.
We gotta salute the flag before we go to war.
Dumb.
Put an egg in there. Maybe some of this. Just proof that I was here.
Thank you.
Jack, get over here.
I'm coming.
You and an AK, that's just crazy.
I know, right? You know, contrary to popular belief, my grouping is not that bad.
No, God, man, we're doing good. We're doing great.
Yeah.
Nobody's leaving, all right? We're standing and dying in this house.
No, we can stand in this house. We're not. No.
You die at your post, soldier.
No.
You ain't mine, Papa.
Yeah, Vamp, yes.
Jack, back up. I gotta put more spikes down.
Where? No, Jack's here. Why, Jack? Why are you here?
Because I told you I'm starting here, and then when the space fails, I will retreat.
Oh.
Jack,
Oh, okay. I
keep
thought you started your base.
Jack,
You're just gonna
keep
walk
backing
us
up.
to
I
the
got
bar.
more spikes to put down.
I believe in you, Tater.
Jack, does the amount of people in an area increase the amount of zombies that spawn?
Yes, it does.
How do we get to the roof? I've never come up here to
It's
find out
the
where
ladder
we're
right
hiding.
here, buddy.
Right here? Okay, great.
Is this our base now? Is this just home?
You can't leave.
Well, Ben, I'm not sure this building is going to exist much longer.
Okay.
Well, okay,
I am
hold on,
really
wait.
excited for this.
Did he redo the? Did you? Okay, front door. How's it barricaded?
It's not.
Okay, that's what I.
So everyone take 3 vitamins.
Oh my god!
Now is the time to take 3
No.
vitamins. Everyone take your vitamins, and then I'm setting the time for Horde Night.
No, okay,
take
hold
my
on.
meds.
hold on.
Nope,
No.
we're going now.
It's gonna happen.
It's too late.
Time. It's time. It's
No,
time.
no.
I forgot my vitamins.
Oh my god.
Enjoy, everyone. It's gonna be a blast.
Well, we're definitely gonna blast something. Hey, that was already reloaded. What are we doing?
Oh my god. I had like a little perch and everything. You ruined it.
I gotta get recog. There's a cop. Kill the
Cop,
cops
cop.
first, by the way.
Yep, with the cop.
One cop down. We just got a big boy over there.
Clock directions. Which way?
Sure. Northeast is. We're all at the front door right now. Dealing with it.
Okay.
Yeah. Do I need to check around the building?
I got
Or are
it.
we just good
No,
here? Okay.
they'll mostly
got
come from
perimeter?
one direction to start. They will change
Okay.
which direction
I
they
love
come
that
from at times.
Oh.
Ah, he set the spikes on fire. He's sabotaging us.
They don't burn the spikes.
Look, a bag.
Watch that happen in the update. Now it burns spikes.
I forgot to light my Molotov cocktail. I just threw a bottle down there.
North.
Yeah, that happens.
Northeast.
Happens to the best of
Dropped
us.
it.
North.
It's down. You're good.
Okay, good. Cop.
Another cop.
Don't
Should
worry,
be
I
down.
have my double barrel
focused.
shotgun, long
No more
range.
goofs, guys. Just
Attaboy.
focus.
Tater, do you want
as
more
long as it shoots
Molotovs?
Double slugs. We're good.
I have 20.
Okay. Let me know when you run out.
I mean, night just started, but things are going pretty well so far.
Why would you say that?
Why? I know.
Because I'm proud of us.
Dog.
Oh, bird up.
No. Bird up.
No distraction, son. I'm really busy beating up strangers.
Who knew there was this many people in this town? That's crazy.
Right?
Tater, how's your frame rate?
Actually decent since I tanked all my graphic settings down to
Yeah.
the lowest they could go. It's still a little stuttery, but
You know what really helps?
Oh, my God.
Fire.
what? Oh yeah, on it.
Dropped it.
I mean, Jack, we're. I know it's. Yeah. No. You know what? I'm not saying anything.
What's your question?
No, it wasn't a question. I feel really good right now,
South.
and I know that'll change very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, it's starting off well. I expected them to get through those spikes faster.
We got dogs.
Someone just ran in.
No, they're not in.
Okay.
The house is full of spikes too, so
Got it. Oh, not yet. I don't.
Tater, how did you die?
I'm not dead.
Bird east.
Oh, I just pulled up the chat, and that showed that you died at one point.
What do you? Yeah, I died when you killed me.
We got a lot of dogs.
Got him.
Yeah, that's normal.
That one's just standing there aura farming. What the fuck? Right. Hey Jack, how long is Horde Night?
Until 4 a.m.
Yeah, right. Uh-oh.
Do perimeter check. Do we get to know like who shot the most at the end of this? Because that'd be exciting for me.
No,
yeah,
not
yeah.
really.
I like numbers. I like numbers.
I mean,
like
you can
that too, Andrew.
if you pull up eye, you can see like how many enemies you've killed and whatnot. So if you look now, you'll have a sense.
Okay. Wow.
Hi.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pathetic. It's 86 for me, 700 for Jacques, and then 160 for Tater, and 100 for Bensai.
Jack, I just checked. You can't push teammates.
I mean, I could make it back up. Here, let me show you.
There you go.
Oh my god, he crazy.
Cop.
Cop,
Dropped it.
like it's hot.
Ain't that a fact?
Boom.
Good for you.
Another cop
I
coming
jump
from
higher than the
west.
rest of you guys.
There you go. Killed the cop.
Look at all those backpacks down there.
Yeah, you could go loot and get a bunch of loot if you wanted.
Heard you wouldn't.
You want that loot,
You should
Tater?
do that. Tater,
quite.
how's your greed?
Well, I don't like looting, so it's fine right now.
Another cop west. Dropped it. Looks like it's down.
The chance I can't get back onto the roof.
Cop west going southwest around the outside of the house.
These comms
Yeah.
are crazy.
Got it.
I got the gamer
Good call,
lean
good
going.
call.
Sorry, my bad. My bad.
No, you're good. I am fully locked in. My mouth is slightly open as I play this game, which means I am truly and entirely in. We got a
It's
cop
great for
heading north.
visuals.
Come around the outside of the building. I'm going to try and intercept. Give me a second.
Dude, these are crazy comms.
I talk, man. You have never played a competitive shooter with me. I talk.
You trying to play Valorant after this, or what?
Honestly,
Yeah, what you
I
doing?
wouldn't be
What you doing?
opposed. Cop dropped. Should be good. We got another one coming from west. Moving northwest around the outside of the building. Dropped.
They might be starting to get in like deeper into the house.
Yeah.
Deeper into the house.
Yeah,
is
so
not great.
I've been looking through this window because they'll be coming through this window to come get us, Tater. And Tater, you didn't leave a way for us to get back up to the top without knocking out a block.
Yeah. I'm
Cop
breaking down this window
east.
so I can go upstairs.
Front of the building. Dropped.
Actually, wait, hang on, I can
Another
fix this.
cop. East, front of the building, northeast, moving east.
Tater, I made a ladder.
Where's the what?
Dropped a cop. We got
Ladder
2
here.
more cops coming from northeast.
I can't go that high, Jack.
Oh, that sounds like a you problem.
Well, I'm down where I stand, boys.
I fell
What do you
down
mean?
through a block. I fell through a block. I glitched through a block.
You'll be fine.
Wow, yeah, this game is optimized.
Yup.
Yeah, it's going good.
Oh, they're going after your penis pole.
No!
No! I got it. Don't worry.
No, they destroyed it.
No! No!
That was totally the zombies and not me shooting your penis pole.
Another cop north.
Jack, did you shoot my penis pole?
I was shooting the zombies around your penis pole. If your penis pole took some
That's so
collateral
weird.
damage, that's your own fault for not reinforcing your penis
That's
pole.
I'm in a
crazy.
really bad spot.
I reinforced the tip because it would be funny.
Oh, they
I
are
can't
getting
get
in,
out of this
boys.
block.
hear them
What's
inside.
going on, Ben? Where you at?
Oh, I'm stuck in a block.
I will
have
start
fallen
knocking the
through
block
it and
out
I am
for you.
stuck. Thank you. When that happens, I'm going down. Good. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank God I have a pickaxe on me.
Thank you so much.
There you go.
I'm having a little
Thank you.
snack break.
Snack break is crazy. Thanks, Jack.
Oh, whoever just knocked out that
Down
ladder,
on the
good job.
spikes. Yeah,
What?
I'm down in the spikes. I'm gonna die. Oh. I'm downstairs. I died.
F's in the chat.
Oh no, Tater and Vincent, they're down.
No, I'm
I was
good.
really-
Tater's fine.
That death was from earlier.
Tater deserves to be the
okay.
first one to die, but no, he's
I
still
lit myself on
alive.
fire.
I couldn't
lit
do
someone
anything about
fire.
that fall. I'm gonna spawn near my backpack and give it my best.
Hey, how do I stop, drop, and roll?
Crazy,
Where's home?
man.
You drink water.
What about Lipton tea?
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, any liquid will work.
All right, word.
Thank you guys for mourning my loss. I appreciate you greatly.
There's like supplies in there and everything.
Awesome. Loaded. I got everything.
Tater, did you find the supply crates I put in there?
No.
Okay.
Well, what is that? Aura glide? Uh-oh.
You're right. You passed them.
Oh.
Bottom crate stuff.
Beer! This is huge.
I hardly
Just
know
for
it.
you. All right.
Is there any way upstairs from downstairs?
No.
Okay. All right.
There's an awkward. Hang on, Ben. I'm gonna make a ladder for you from
Okay.
the front porch.
Up.
All right, Ben. The ladder exists on the front porch.
A ladder exists on the front porch. You got
Yeah.
it. I'm trying to move outside, but it's not looking good, kids.
Can you make it here?
Maybe. We're gonna try.
Oh, I should level up.
Ladder on
Yeah,
the front
that's
porch.
good. Yeah. You see it?
I have 10 skill points.
Thank you. Oh my
Killed
gosh.
100 zombies. You know, I'm glad I gave this game a shot because it actually is quite nice.
Yeah.
That's right. That is. Yeah, I'm actually having an amazing time. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. This is bliss.
And I will say, you guys are only scratching the surface of actually knowing what you can do in the game.
Right.
Because your first playthrough, you have no idea what the hell you're doing.
I know. I could have built so many more spikes
Yeah.
if I knew
yeah,
that I was
we're-
building spikes from day one.
If I knew that I was building spikes like I'm building spikes.
Nope. Oh,
I got
we're
the
getting barfed
cop
on.
northeast.
Got him.
We
Got
have no
him.
Nice.
bullets left.
Good drop.
Any bullets in this toilet? No, unlucky. I'm
What-
sorry.
What bullets do you need, Tater?
Apparently, I need AP armor-piercing slugs. I grabbed a shit ton of regular shotgun shells.
Hold R, and then you can switch your ammo.
Oh, ignore me typing in chat. My chat is
I
trying
will
to
say-
bait me into going to loot the bags.
This has gone significantly better than I expected.
Dude,
Hey, you got a bunch of
spamming,
gamers.
spamming funny trap is always good.
See,
Not
Tater, I can
wrong.
play games if I can stand still and do it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I just watched one of them get just shoulder checked by the.
See, the thing is, like, I don't think they're actually
dropped,
trying to come up
dropped.
these stairs.
Not dropped. There we go.
Well,
Then
I'm
where
gonna
are they
shoot some-
going, Jack?
I think they're just destroying the floor. Or the walls on the ground floor.
that
There we
seems
go.
bad for us.
Yeah, it might be. We'll see.
I now understand
mean-
what Jack was talking about with running out of assault rifle ammo. That's kind of crazy.
Hey, Ben, you need some more 7.62?
I will take that in just a moment. I'm on the blicky right now. But yeah, if you can come up and run that to me, that'd be spectacular. I see you.
How did you get over there?
I mean,
Magic.
I agree.
You got Ben behind you.
Thank you.
Wow, those
Bless.
pushing turrets
No,
are
come back, come
putting
back, come back,
work
there's
down
more.
there.
You got more for me? Yeah,
Yep.
Thank you, friend. Thank you very much. One of them almost fell off the house, and that would have been mortifying. I think I shot Tater in the face.
Hey, you know what? That makes us even.
Honestly, yes. My book, brothers. Clearing my book.
Or they're just going in. They're just having a good time.
Yeah, they're going inside and destroying the house from the inside out. It's not good. It's really
Well, that
scary
takes
down
some
there,
time.
actually.
Tater, what are you doing?
I'm breaking through the floor to go fight him down there.
Why?
Oh, wow, they're just, like, destroying everything down here.
The
Great.
end.
Awesome.
Yes, yes.
Cool. Well, that was a fun trip.
Take that.
So, weirdly enough, they're only destroying the wall directly beneath us. They're not trying
Which
to go
is
up the
kind of
stairs.
gross.
Cop.
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 Me when I'm in passenger in a car, my friend's speeding.
Cop.
Yeah, honestly, facts. Good
I
job.
just,
I'm joking. I always drive responsibly.
I drive responsibly when I think someone's gonna catch me.
It's not.
Oh! Hey gamers, that's curtains for me.
No, it's not. No, it's not. No,
What do you
it's
mean?
not. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. Not on
Where's
my
the
watch. No,
Where's
it's
the
not.
ladder? Where's the ladder?
Behind
Hypothetically.
you, Tater. It's up to your right. Get onto the porch. I got your back.
Yeah, my frames dropped and I walked off. It's where?
It's on the porch. Look to your
In the
left
bathroom.
as you're at the front door.
Where are you, Tater?
I'm trying.
I'm downstairs.
It's not good.
I opened my inventory and lost all frames for a while.
Oh, that's crazy. I can't stop them all from coming in, Tater. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. No biggie. So it's on the front porch, you're saying?
It's on the front porch to your right if you're leaving the house, to your left if you're entering the house. Jump up and look up, and it'll be on some stone bricks. It's right next to the pusher turrets.
To the right if I'm leaving the house.
Yes.
Yes. To your right. Right.
It's up high so that the zombies can't climb it.
Yeah, I don't have any jump perks. I can't reach it. We're
You
good.
can't
Other way.
jump.
Other way.
On the left side, Tater. If you're looking
Left
at the
side,
house,
left side.
you
I
can.
saw one on the right. What?
There's two.
Yeah, not the
I
right
made
one.
one that
There's two.
you, who can't jump as high, can get up. Yeah, right here, Tater.
I can't, dude. I can't find it.
It's
Oh my
follow me. Follow me. I'm on the porch.
Hang on. My frames are so
got
low. When I step
Good
outside, I
job,
don't
Drew.
have time to look around.
Great work.
What's up?
I saw that, Drew. That was clean.
Thank you.
Yeah, you held that front door like it was your job. Good work, sir. Good work.
I'm trying.
Tater, I'm literally just sitting on the
doing great.
ladder. So when you
Brother,
come
I'm
out,
hacking. He's sitting on the ladder.
He's hacking.
yeah,
he
you
is.
see that? You see that? There you go, buddy. You did it. You did it.
Yay!
Welcome back, Tater.
Hey,
Glad to have
gamers.
you, buddy.
I cannot believe I'm alive right now.
Boys can't jump. White boys can't jump, says my chat.
No,
That's true.
dude.
No, that's
for real.
accurate.
Also, I'm glad you guys are enjoying watching me play first-person shooter games. This is what it sounds like.
Ah, okay, well, I'm breathing.
Dropped him. Another one, northeast, spitting.
Okay,
Jack, what are you doing?
Setting up a kill corridor, which is what I wanted to do from the start.
Attaboy.
is it worth me going to repair the pushers?
Nah.
I mean, not at this point.
We got 2 hours left, boys.
I'm gonna need a repair kit soon for my pistol because my assault rifle ammo is gonna run out.
There's
I'm
several
gonna
up
go
here.
inside and get that. Yeah. I remember there's this really thoughtful guy named Drew that set us up a little stash inside.
Just in case.
Because in the absolute G. Where's my ladder down?
Woo! We're having a good time.
Haha. Good
Jack,
job,
do you
Jack.
like my grenade hole?
It is useful.
His tater hole.
The return of the
So here's the
tater
thing. We have reached the point now where we can't kill any of the zombies.
Because they're all indoors.
They're all inside, and we can't see them.
We can go down there and blaze
Yeah,
the door.
I'm not scared.
hole. This is for glory.
Oh,
You want
Tater's
you want,
less
you want,
scared
you want
than I am.
Pokes them out.
Good
Jack?
evening, good evening,
cover
zombie.
you.
That's what I'm doing.
Okay.
No, that one didn't care for me.
Nope, they did not care. What happened?
They just ran
You
right
lose your
past.
touch? Sure did.
Ooh, I'm caught on a couch. Good time for some refreshing iced tea, I think. Ow! I shouldn't have taken a tea break.
Brother,
Oh.
me too, when I'm trying to quit weed.
Gamers, it's been real. It's been a pleasure. You guys are wonderful. It's been an honor serving alongside you.
Do 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 do.
Not
I want-
Tater's typing. Wow.
I got greedy for my Lipton iced tea.
Honestly, I get greedy for a Lipton too.
If I spawn near my backpack, how bad is that for me? Uh-oh.
Do it.
This is quite a ways from my backpack, game.
Nah, you're not scared. You doesn't afraid of anything. Ben say on Rainbow Six Siege. I got so mad at Rainbow Six Siege because
I'm
people
just
were
one of the
peeking
zombies.
pixels.
I'm just one
I
of the
didn't
guys.
know the game.
I'm just one of the guys.
I'm just one of the guys.
I'm just
Go
one of the
show.
guys.
I'm covering you, Tater. Get up here.
I do got my loot, my shekels, my goodies. Sit down.
I didn't know you played loot. That's crazy.
We're so back.
Ah, terrible shots.
Yeah, so my death is because I wanted to engage them in honorable combat and I ran downstairs with a hammer. I will accept that as my...
Do pistols have
seems-
drop off?
I don't think so.
Okay, I might just be bad at aiming. That would make sense.
All right. I need to level up. Just so you cover. I'll go. I'll hop in here.
Jack, I'm a little
I've-
offended you felt the need to build a second base.
We'll see.
I'm not. It makes sense.
You're saying we'll see with an hour left? You concern me.
Cop.
Oh my God! I am clipping.
Hi,
through
Jack.
things.
Can you get up? Are you good?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I got
don't want
ups.
to be in your way.
I took 2 points in parkour, so I can jump
back.
a block higher.
Awesome.
Parkour.
A really good call. Another
Parkour.
cop, northeast, north. Drop
Down.
top.
Good
Good job.
job.
Good job. Looking good.
I dropped Tater.
What?
What?
I'm sorry. I can get sneak attacks up here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're crouched.
yeah, if you're crouched. So
Do
the
they not-
The zombies will be aggroed at one particular person, which is why some of them have been running past me. So if they're not locked on you and you're sneaking, you can kill them.
That's kind of goofy.
Wow.
There's a cop.
Oh, gotta reload.
Drop down.
Explode. Wow, that got
Yeah, that
loaded.
cooked him. That was a rough
That
watch.
was insane. Yeah. You'll definitely find that on dark spots in the internet later.
Nobody look at me for a second.
Nobody look at him. No one look. Everyone stare. Everyone stare at Tater.
All right.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Everybody drink you some water.
I broke my shotgun.
Don't.
Hydrate or dihydrate.
Bro, those pusher turrets go so hard.
I know.
At
I
least
think it's
one
a
of them
proximity
does.
thing because mine's disabled and now yours is going. So good for us.
Yeah.
Do it.
I dropped my gun?
You press
Pick
G.
it up.
Oh, yeah, son of a bitch. There it is.
Sort of a
Fair enough.
so it be.
Okay. Bro, I had to switch trigger fingers.
Hello there.
I'm a little upset that Tater's plan's working so well.
Honestly, not at all. I'm super happy, and this is exactly how I would have gone about this process.
I was kind of hoping that
fortify the
we'd-
walls and then stack it.
Yeah.
Tater,
what are you
remember
doing?
that is only going to work for a little while.
I was just flexing on him.
Oh, for sure. Honestly, drop a bed.
Oh,
You know?
we almost had a little spill again.
Pistol broken. Do I have a repair kit? I do not have a repair kit. Oh boy.
There's
I'm going to go
I
grab
have
one.
one.
Yeah.
I have one.
Okay.
I'll drop it up here.
15 minutes?
Thanks.
And there you go.
Thank you.
Oh, there's a cop spitting on me.
Ask him politely to stop. That's illegal.
Hey, stop it. He didn't.
Well,
Wow. Okay. Well, I think we're justified in what
He's
we're
down.
doing then.
another
Another
cop.
cop northeast. We got another one flat north.
Oh, well, if anyone wants to go get those supplies, now's a great time to do it.
It's like he's trying to get us killed. Wait, why is it
There's a green
700?
glowing one.
What's happening?
Northwest, moving north.
Jack, why is it day 700?
I don't know.
All right. Well, to make it clear, my plan worked for day 7.
Yep.
Now we're putting
Now
it to
I
the
fear
test,
Jack
baby.
is going to massacre me.
If you would like better guns and you need more ammo, let me know. I will cheat to get you better guns and ammo.
I like my
I think
shitty,
we make do with what we
shitty
got.
shotgun. It's great.
Why are there green glowing ones? What do they do?
Oh, they regenerate. Oh, God.
Good. So no matter how many times you shoot them, they regenerate. I'm being attacked
Until,
by a bird.
until you kill them.
Ah,
Got you, buddy.
thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. You're welcome.
Ow. Just because it becomes morning doesn't mean the horde goes away. It doesn't help when Jack jumps us to the start of at 700.
No. I didn't jump you to the start. I jumped you to, like, a sixth of the way through.
Oh, great. That makes a difference.
Yeah. Significantly different.
Jack, dispense me a better gun.
Sends me a better gun goes so
How much?
hard.
How much? How much 7.62 do you have on you?
No, not
None,
even
I'm using a
please.
shotgun.
Just-
I'm sorry. How many shotgun shells do you have on you?
I have like 500. 546.
Okay, great. Stand by. I will give it to you in here.
And where?
Hang on.
There's so much loot on the floor. I cannot wait to go looting.
know.
I am so excited for the next part.
Oh,
That means we get everything.
Oh no! Oh
Come
no!
northwest, moving north.
I got
Dropped.
I cannot move.
I'm working on it. I'm giving it. There we go. Here you go.
Oh, I'm down. I'm down
bud.
and naked.
That is a fun
I
place
should
to
be standing
sometimes.
there. Yeah. Yeah. All right. All right.
Yeah, no, I agree, Jack. I agree. Danger close, brother. Get it.
Yeah.
I hear another one yelling. That's not nice. Birds up on the
Let's
roof.
spawn on the bed.
Got him.
Oh, I'm in my own
okay.
spike trap.
We've got regenerators coming from west. They're in the pit. They are trying to make their way around. Oh, that was a wholly naked human. Okay, that's
Don't mind me.
for a second. Like,
Just
like
naked.
zombie. Chad
Oh no!
from high school.
Oh no! My
Hey.
bag.
No, just kidding. All right, carry on.
It's in the spikes.
My bag.
Good luck.
No, I got it. I got it.
I'm holding the corner.
Fuck you, buckaroo.
Oh, Scipio. Welcome, my boy.
I need to get up fast. How do I get up fast? Can I
The
jump
ladder.
build?
The ladder on the.
The ladder. The ladder's a
Ladder
good
on the
idea, but
porch.
there's spikes in the way before I get to that point.
If anything,
Because someone
spitting is
put
a mild use of
spikes
force.
everywhere. That's so weird.
Hey, did it work?
Oh
or did it
no!
work?
Oh no! Oh no! Go up ladder! Go up ladder! There it goes. We're good. We're good. We're not good. Less than good.
No.
Well, now your bag's in an
Not
easier
up
spot.
The ladder.
That's so nice. I'm so excited by that. Yeah. Vince, you're so good at things and stuff.
Thanks. It's it didn't help me when I fell to my doom after dealing with falling through a brick, but
Yep.
I'll take every other part of it. I am out of ammo.
I'll get you
Oh
more.
boy. Oh, thanks. I need it for both. I'm gonna grab the repair
so
kit so that I can repair my auto
Nice
rifle.
of you.
I will drop you a bunch next to you.
Okay, give me just a second. I'll be right there. Thank you.
Our front wall is pretty much gone, just so everyone knows.
Okay.
You'll have to open the box of ammo that's there, but yeah, that'll tide you over.
Thanks.
Just need to grab this stuff.
Jack, I've
you
shot
don't mind?
a hole in the floor.
I see that.
Thank you.
That doesn't seem optimal.
Honestly, that's not that. If you just started with that, that actually would have made this base significantly better.
Really.
Yeah.
I got you.
Got a little bonked up. Thank you. Thank you.
Got bonks for days.
I'm gonna do one of these.
Oh, do we still get?
Jack, I made a good base.
Jack, I'm maxed out in strength. What should I dump
Jack?
points in now?
I think you made a good base.
Maybe
gonna lie.
perception.
Jack,
Oh no! Oh
Jack,
no!
what did you just do?
I just threw some dynamite and blew a hole, and I am
Okay,
stuck
good.
in said
You
hole.
As long as you didn't run commands, that's all I care about.
No.
Bird. I shouldn't have fired all those shots. Gotta do better with my ammo management. We're playing 7 Days to Die and trying not to. We were on day 7, and Jack made it day 700.
No, it's now
Up for the
701.
Thank you.
But you did make it 700, and
Yeah,
then
I
it
did.
naturally turned into 701.
Listen.
Bonk.
Thank you.
The Magneto.
That's right.
I have escaped the basement.
Where are the zombies coming in from now?
Still, I'm trying to run in the front door,
Another
but then they
bird.
fall straight into the basement.
No, I'm not drinking water. I'm shooting at the bird. Thank you, game.
Bonk.
I am busy, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I know what you're doing, and fuck you, Tater.
What is happening down
What is he
there?
doing?
He's trying to shoot out the floor below me.
That's
Working?
kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean,
No, because he's moving around.
yeah, because I know what he's doing. Ooh, I leveled up. Yeah, doesn't work, buddy.
You know, the spike traps required so much wood, but man, is it working.
I mean, honestly, they did really, really good. I bet you need to make that one.
Yeah?
Nothing
know
like
what,
a little
dude?
friendly fire.
Well played. Well played. Well played.
We got a
I was like,
big boy
I have the
running in
things that
northeast.
actually destroy shit.
What is that? Why does it look like a tank of some variety?
Oh, is that the demo? Oh, that's the demo.
And it ran inside, and I can't stop that from happening.
I wish you woulda.
I tried.
I
I
wish
gave
you
it a
would.
lot of damage on the way up. Cops down. Oh gosh, what are we doing here?
Jack, I fear this base survived day 7 and has survived a decent chunk
It's
of
doing
700.
doing good. I mean, it's a big ass building, which helps.
Why is that
Yeah.
blue?
Why are you blue?
Oh, that means they have their electricity.
Why are you running?
They shouldn't do that.
No, they shouldn't, but they do.
What's the biological explanation for that zombie having a lot?
You want an explanation?
field.
You want science in your zombie game, bro?
Yeah.
I
I'm
do.
sorry. I thought you were having fun times.
Cop vomit.
You want to ruin it with reality?
Damn, my weapon broke again. All right. I fear we're gonna start running out of repair kits, guys.
I'll make you more
Okay.
if I can get up there.
They
I can
are-
get up there.
I got.
They are
Awkwardly.
just having a time.
Repair.
They're all in the basement, which is
A
rein-
good thing.
yeah, it's reinforced with concrete, so I'm not terribly worried about that. But just
Oh,
make sure
yes,
they can't
I
get out
love
of the basement.
frames. I love frames. I love having a frame rate on my computer.
I know mine's kind of tanked right now. I'm not sure what's happening.
Mine's doing great. Thanks for all the advice, Drew.
Oh, you're so welcome.
My name is
Yeah.
Ebony Darkness Dementia Raven.
And thank
And
you,
I have
gamers, for
long
buying me a
ebony black
computer.
hair.
I appreciate
Yeah.
you.
Oh, and who's your friend? How'd you put it together?
Yeah, Emily, for sure, for sure. Galaxy Cat, one of our Patreon generals.
Oh, you have a there's no bullets in my gun.
Oh, I thought you had one of your friends come over and build it for you.
Patrick, for sure, absolutely. Patty with the Hattie.
Yeah.
Came over and helped me put it together multiple times. That was a nightmare. This is bad, guys.
Yeah, it's not that bad. We're doing great.
Well,
Ben, I have repair for you.
thank you.
Die!
I need ammo
Die!
soon.
What is that thing? That
Ammo.
was a large thing that I just saw.
Hey!
Oh, we're
listen.
panicking. Oh, I'm panicking. Oh, panic game. Oh, it's bad. Unrelated. Excuse me,
Thanks.
zombies. I'd like to leave now. Excuse me. Pardon me. Thank
Excuse me. Pardon me. Excuse me.
you. Don't mind me. Excuse me.
No, I'm good, Ben.
Sir?
you.
Sir?
How did I not get hit a single time during that?
Because you're honestly pretty goated.
That's no. They're just not fight. Hey, part of the house is gone.
Yep.
That's
I am
quite
now level
interesting.
28 and I have 14 skill points. I am very excited.
Oh, put some points into the machine gunner.
Assault rifle, the machine gunner?
You'll
Yeah,
do
yeah, yeah.
so much more damage.
That sounds awesome. I love how having that makes me do more damage. This is good. We're gonna buy.
Science be damned.
Buy. Sorry. Didn't
The
mean
zombies
it.
didn't hit me because I said excuse me while I was running from them.
I put
Yep,
some more
because you're
7.62 into the chest. Tater, where are you at? Do you need shit?
I'm out on the porch.
All right,
jumping
so
around.
I've gone from level 1 machine gunner to level 5 machine gunner.
Oh yeah,
Let's see what that
you're about
does.
to notice a big difference.
I mean, with these guys that I can hit, they are squiggly.
Can we really just shoot our friends and neighbors?
Yeah.
This is America.
I mean, I am noticing a difference. Yeah, it is. Oh my gosh.
Ooh, what's in here? Me when I open the chest that almost makes my entire game crash. Holy shit.
Ain't that a fact?
My bad for opening that.
Yeah, honestly, get good. What's that big guy?
Do you guys know where Childish Gambino got his name?
No. Please tell me.
Wu-Tang Clan name generator.
Shut up.
I've
Shut
fallen.
up. That's
that hilarious?
awesome.
Isn't that funny? So he would. That feels right.
Yeah, that feels right.
What's that? Oh, explosion.
What exploded and why?
One of the demos.
Oh, they just go bang?
Yeah.
There's another one.
They have,
That's
they have,
not
they have an
great.
explosive charge on their chest.
And now how did they get that?
Biologically.
Yeah.
Or is there some nefarious person who made this plague and they're making bioweapons?
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think that there is an evil doctor named
Tater.
Frankendunson. What? Why? What is
Going
this
to
group?
blame each other?
Who would do such a thing?
Honestly, Jack, Tater.
We would.
Alright, honestly, if I had to do this base again, I would just pre-place all these holes to shoot down into the...
I agree.
I was like, where are the zombies going? Oh, I see. Jacques
Yeah,
is over
I
there.
needed some painkillers.
A change of pace. Oh.
Hey, look, a rabbit. I don't think I can hit
Oh,
it
it
with
really
this
is a
thing
rabbit.
pulled over
Oh, I
here.
thought you were
Yeah, it
joking.
really is. I definitely went, oh, look, a squirrel.
I thought you were making some sort of joke, and I was trying to play along.
I mean,
Oh
thank
shit!
you.
I got the wrong thing. I needed vitamins, not painkillers.
You're fine. You're fine. I am so broken. So damaged,
So are we all.
honestly.
Honestly, I'm kind of doing fine.
Oh,
I
okay.
haven't gotten hit since you swapped it to
That's
day
cool.
700.
So if
Are
it's green,
you
it
trying to make
regenerates.
increase the difficulty? Is that what you're trying to do?
Oh, that's Jack on a motorcycle. My bad, dude.
No, it's just me running.
He was walking funny.
I'm gonna eat some steak.
There should be some in the crate.
I have it in my pockets, which is probably not a good spot to save steak, but I can't jump. My leg is broken.
There's a splint in the crate.
That would require me to be able to jump.
I can get you.
I have one on me. I'll come to you.
You got one?
If
Okay.
someone can run it to me, that'd be great, because I'm holding down the fort. Why are you like that?
Electrical spider.
Electrical jumper boy.
Oh, God.
If you jump up at me, we're not friends.
Electric spider.
That's actually really funny. That was very good.
Yep. Nope. That's good.
Yeah, I'm not the one here who does that professionally. My bad, guys.
How dare you?
Honestly, it's okay.
Not taking
What are
his
friends
job.
for if not standing directly on each other's toes at a moment's notice? Okay, we've got what?
Oh, hi Ben.
Another in-game
I have
hour?
I have
Hi.
a faster cast.
Thank you. Oh my god.
It happens to fit you. It's so crazy.
It does. I appreciate that. I don't think it will let me put it on.
Oh, that means it's a
Be
sprain.
able to use it.
Okay.
I guess we just do that.
Good to know.
right?
What happens when they're orange?
They're just stronger. They do more damage
Okay.
and take more damage. It's like the next level above green.
Okay.
Do they still regenerate?
I think so.
I kind of just have
I
a
don't
little,
know.
little spot that they're just standing, and I just get to shoot them constantly for free.
Oh, God.
So the green ones regenerate health if they have not been, if they're
Same with the blues.
okay, not dead.
Yeah.
Like
Or
they're
if,
dead, then they
or unless you have a rad remover mod on your weapon,
oh, interesting.
which I have on mine,
Okay.
but they're pretty high end, so I only found one. I have had recog this entire time. Let's take it.
Do it.
Guys, we're gonna do it. I'm so excited.
I mean, actually, yeah, we kind of are.
And just look at all that loot.
I'm very excited to loot.
Hopefully it doesn't despawn right before we get to it.
That would be depressing. This is the moment where Jack says loot doesn't despawn, right? Right?
No, it doesn't.
Right, Jack?
No, you're good.
Oh,
Okay.
thank God.
I know.
He's like, I was just trying to make you happy. It does. And
I
it all
know.
goes.
Oh,
Hey,
another
look, there's an
drop.
airplane.
Oh, you're not dead. Okay, you're dead. Growing rather tired of the electric spiders.
Why? Oh no. Guys, it's day 7001.
Whoa, one of them just yelled.
Jack!
I kept it the exact same time. I just advanced it another 6,300 days.
Okay.
And some shotgun shells into my pockets.
Sorry, I can't do that. That'd be cheating. Anyway.
I'm working on it. This place is a little bit of a maze trying to get anywhere.
I don't know what you're talking about. Our house has withstood the test of time. Time
In the
and
middle of the
time
street.
again. You,
There's
stop
screaming.
yelling. You sound
I know.
crazy. I don't like your behavior.
You know how crazy you sound right now?
Honestly, that's what I'm saying.
Oh
Pretty
god,
great.
I had to run out through
I
those
just lit
fucking
her
spike
up.
traps.
Who would put those there?
Honestly, someone crazy. I am low on bullets. It is about to be punching time at a time that is less than ideal for punching.
I'm low on sanity, man.
Hey,
All right.
Jack, I threw my shotgun downstairs into the basement on accident.
I can't solve that problem.
Jack,
That's
I'd
a you
like
problem.
another shotgun delivered to me.
What is it, your vending machine?
Jack,
Yeah.
Jack, it's a little urgent.
Tater,
Hang
move your
on.
face, please.
Hang on.
Move your face, Tater. Move your face, Tater. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Where,
Thank-
Tater, where are you?
Forgetting to.
Right by Benson.
All
Okay,
right.
you're flying now.
Yeah, I'm dropping. This is the only way to get to you.
They fly now.
And they just come out dripped out. And it's like, yeah, they fly.
Oh.
There's a
Oh,
shitload of
oh,
ammo on the ground.
Oh. Thanks, bud.
Drew, where are you at? I'm coming
Tater,
to
are
you.
you ready to take your spot?
Hi.
Yeah.
I got 300.
You're gonna want more for what I'm dropping.
Oh no. Mm. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. That's what you meant.
How do I
Yes.
open the box that I see?
Is it C for you?
Preloaded? Oh my god. Oh my god, like my frames can handle that. Oh my god, that
Are
exploded
you
most
shooting
of
the
the house.
wood, Tater?
Oh no, I was shooting the zombies. The recoil was just hard.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh, I don't want to be glitching through there.
Absolute
Wow.
menace.
I'm gonna be really honest. The frames when you're shooting the MG,
It's not great.
Yeah, not great, Bob.
I'm getting to see like every third bullet I fire.
Even my frames are starting to drop a little. It's not bad, but we're getting there.
It's getting there, man. It's
How do
struggled.
you? That's how you throw the dynamite.
So dynamite does mostly block damage and doesn't actually damage entities all that much. Grenades will do the opposite. Actually damage the
Very
zombies.
depressing, but good to know.
Yeah. So like when Tater kept throwing pipe bombs at me, and it did nothing,
Yeah.
I then threw a single piece of dynamite back at him.
Yeah.
Can I? Oh, I can't aim. Okay.
I'm not gonna lie. I think I have to punch. Oh, it's 4. I don't have to punch. I still might have to punch.
Jack, what are we doing up there?
Oh, I made a terrible decision. I am on the floor. Ha ha
You've made a
ha.
grave error.
So fun. Ha ha. Grave. Get it? Because they're zombies. They're undead. Ha 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 ha.
We're friends. Okay.
Guys, we did it.
We did it, fam. And nothing untoward happened to anyone.
Ah,
God.
it fell down, and it's not good. It's okay.
Playing
We're good. I'm
parkour.
good. Actually,
Ugh.
I can punch hard, so
Dang
we're
it.
actually at a spot where I can actually do something. Wow,
Ugh.
we're good. I'm good at gaming, and I'm not
so
gonna
tense.
die down in this hole. Not even if you try.
Oh,
Good.
Hey.
Yippee!
Oh,
yippee!
you're not a friend. You're not a friend. You're not a friend.
We should loot. I want to loot.
I
Go
wanna
get that loot.
so bad.
Go get that loot.
Hey guys,
that?
good job. We lived. That seemed like that seemed really difficult for like the first night.
Yeah, it's weird. They usually scale it up slower than that. I'm not sure why we were getting such
Interesting.
tough zombies.
That's so
Okay.
crazy.
So
Hey,
weird.
listen, if we can talk to the devs at any point, I'd be happy to talk to them about bugs. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Good.
Is it bugs?
I
If they're
hate
zombies.
bugs. that was really dumb, Drew, and I like that a lot. Thank you. That was exactly my humor.
You're welcome, man.
No,
You're
but
welcome.
they're zombies,
Yeah,
though.
zombies. Some of the
Tater,
loot
you
is
know you
hot
can you know
garbage.
you can pick those back up. You don't need to shoot them out.
No.
Okay.
Oh no. I'm full of stuff.
What?
I'm full of pudding.
Oh, thank you so
Oh,
much for
and
the
it's gonna
quote.
storm.
I appreciate you. We lived, guys. We lived. Like that was actually really
We
spooky.
lived.
I died exactly once, which makes me sad. But I will. Nah, I'll take the L. I mean, like
Honestly,
I felt,
probably
that's the deal.
probably not your fault. I think there was some shenaniganery going on.
I
don't
will
know about
take.
who.
I'll take whatever L's I deserve. Otherwise, survived the rest of the time. Not too bad. Good call outs. Pretty proud of my performance.
So good.
We did good. We
Yeah.
did good.
Yeah, you're just you're emotionally spent after all that.
I mean,
honestly.
kind of need a cigarette. I mean,
Yeah.
honest.
Gentlemen, could you join me in saluting the flag?
No.
Jack, if you
Yep.
blow this up, I'm gonna be quite sad.
All right,
He
let's
would
also
never
oh
do
God! Hang
Don't
on.
worry, I'll get
We're
him.
busy.
Got him.
Okay.
My pockets are almost
All
completely
right.
full.
Are we saluting the flag?
Yes.
Are we-
As the sun rises. Oh.
Bro, these knuckles are terrifying. I love them. I got a coffee. I'm gonna drink it just because I deserve the caffeine.
You deserve it.
Damn right.
Thanks.
Yeah.
My legs are heavy. My knees, palms,
Sweating.
sweaty. Yeah.
You got mom's
Vomit
spaghetti?
sweater. Yeah. I'm allergic to sketty. Yeah. All right. Let me put on. Let me put on real shoes. But those go on feet. They're athletic shoes. Are they armor? Are athletic shoes armor?
Oh yeah, yeah, and they make you run faster, so you can do monk shit.
Okay,
So
you spoke
good.
my language. All right, I'll put on the shoes.
It's a massive crater, and there's a snake.
There's a snake.
There's
Is
a
it in your
snake
boot?
in that hole.
I got him.
Yeah.
The specs are great, but they make it hard to get the loot.
Where? Okay. Let me put on my tattered socks.
Ow. Oh, R. That's so nice. Okay, I gotta remember these hotkeys.
Yeah, honestly. I forget being a pirate like all the time.
Yar.
Tater? Can I ask you a question?
What's up?
What you doing, Chief? What are you what
Oh! Oh! Oh, it hurts! Oh!
I'm not a part of this.
No?
I mean, believe it or not, no. I know. Hard to believe.
You know what, guys? I'm proud of us.
Me too. It was a good times. Had by
I'm actually very, very proud of us. I think we did a good job.
we messed this house up.
If there's one thing we learned, it's that wooden spikes are always good. Always build more wooden spikes.
Is that what we got from this? And
Yeah.
are
Oh,
you
yeah.
certain that that's what we got from this?
That's
No
what I took from
downsides.
this.
That's what I heard.
Okay, okay. If I may ask a few questions.
Go on.
Okay. Where are we going to get more wood for more spikes?
The trees. I can still see trees. We haven't deforested.
Not the cutout.
Tater, where are you, Tater? Oh, there you are.
I'm here. You're gonna shoot me, aren't you?
Yes, with a gun, probably.
So much loot. So I know we've obliterated this world in the
Just the
pursuit
house.
of fun. How much are we gonna? Should I be
Guys,
looting and scooting?
I'm really busy cask of Amontillatoing Tater right now. If you could give me a moment.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
Just
sorry.
focus on
Take
this.
your
Thank
time.
you.
Sure, of course, take your time. I have
like the
5
sad,
more skill
somber
points
music.
available.
Like we didn't just survive.
Right? What do I want? Join siphoning strike, join healing factor, cardio.
Hi, Jack. Oh, I already did. I was gonna do that on my own.
No, I'm just doing it with
Dang,
concrete just to make sure that it sticks.
Okay.
Dane Bramage, thank you so much for the dono. It says Dr. Dictator has led another successful defense campaign. Hail Tater.
Damn right.
Hail Tater.
Damn
Hail-
right.
Oh my god! Don't feed his ego. What are you doing?
My goodness.
So, gentlemen, what I'd like you to do is just take a moment, if you can, and just boot up my stream just to see the state that Tater finds himself in.
I think it's comfy down here.
Sure, I can do that. Give me a second. I gotta get on my.
Oh, great!
my
I
phone.
could put more down then. That's great.
Hey, I think I made a
Yeah.
mistake.
What's up?
I didn't think. I threw a pipe bomb, but it didn't kill me.
No.
Peter, weren't you streaming?
I went.
He
I ended streams so
stopped
that Jack
early
can't-
so that I couldn't rate him. My mods tried to tell me, and I tried to rate him in time, but it didn't happen.
I am currently looking at your game right now, Jack.
Oh, okay, great. So
Yeah,
so this
we're
is the
watching.
hole that's in the center of the world, and
No.
that's what the hole looks like. And then down there's a tater.
Oh, it's so nice. Is Tater okay with this? Oh my
Yeah,
god.
I can't explain to you guys. You just need to go to Jack's stream. I'm sorry. That's insane. Jack is streaming on Twitch.
When I'm in an enclosed space.
You find that comforting?
Yeah, I like sleeping in enclosed spaces, and I have to hold on to something, like a pole or something, like a post.
Okay. This is normal for you?
Yeah, like I can't sleep if I don't have like a bedpost or something.
Shoot.
This is really nice down here.
Yeah, I thought you might appreciate this.
Open floor concept.
Yeah. Honestly, you should have made this your base.
Would they dig down to me?
Yes.
Ah.
It would take them a long ass time.
Nah.
But they do it. They yearn for the mines, you see.
They do. They do.
You know who else yearns for the mines?
The children.
Oh, do they? It was a genuine question. I just didn't know.
Is there any more tomfoolery to be had? Are we done with the stream? Is that probably what we're gonna call it?
I mean, I think that at this point it's time for me to like reestablish my inventory.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna destroy what's left of this building.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm just kind of putting
Go
stuff
for it.
back, and
Boy, that gun
Man.
just clears the room, doesn't it?
Yep.
a
Yeah,
can
it's
of
a
salmon.
dev tool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see, said the blind man.
Right. I see, said the Minnesota guy in the middle of winter.
I gotta go play competitive Overwatch for several hours and completely ruin my night.
Okay.
Why
Your
would
night went
you
so
do
well though,
that?
Tater. You built such
I
a nice
know.
base that
And
I destroyed.
have to, dude, I had too much dopamine. I have to fry my brain by getting really pissed off at the new character because there shouldn't be a motorcycle in that game. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, what is wrong with a motorcycle?
I don't want to get hit and run while I'm playing Overwatch. So I escaped my containment.
Okay, so be good enough to not get hit?
No! No!
I don't understand. Like, if you simply are better at the game. Why? Oh, Jack. Oh, Jack. Jack, you silly human.
I fear that when we come back for 3.0, we may need to make a new world, because I fear this one has been truly and rightfully destroyed.
No,
Yeah,
it's
we really-
fine. It's
really
honestly
did
not even
number on
that big. It's not even that big, honestly. You guys, I think you guys are being dramatic. Oh, thank you so much
That's
for the
what she
donut.
said. Where is this? What's happening?
What? What's up?
No, nothing.
If Tater had a child, would the name be Tater Tot? Yes, logically.
Oh my god. Hello.
What is?
Great, cool. No, I'll just be in the ground now. That's fine. Yeah. No. Why else would I? Who else? Nope. I'm just gonna eat my soup in the ground. That's fine. No, everything's fine. Lake Tater. Can't touch me in Lake Tater. No, Lake Tater. Jesus. Ah!
What do you think about yo-yos as a meteor hammer? Fire. I think that's
I can't-
fun and hilarious.
Ben.
You made a terrible mistake by going in Lake Tater.
I've made a terrible mistake.
I would really love to help, but I got as far away from Jack as I could because I can see
what?
that. Brother,
Well,
I can't
Tater's
help you
coming
with
to join
that
you.
one.
Oh no, Tater died.
If there's water, he shouldn't have died.
I thought it was like Minecraft.
Me too.
Oh
That's
yeah,
what I
that
was
makes sense.
Okay, well, great, cool.
Thanks,
Glad we're
Jack. I
Thanks,
appreciate it. Thanks, Jack. Oh, buddy, thanks so
Oh,
much.
you're
I'm so
so
excited to be in the hole. I'm so excited to be in the hole.
here. Jack put us all in his holes. That's what I heard.
Oh.
Is it? Did I hit bedrock? Is that what that sound is?
Yeah.
That's pretty much the sound.
No God mode for me.
Keep
Wait,
it going,
can-
Jack. What you got, brother? What you got?
Is this Minecraft?
Ben's
rules?
crafty.
Can
Yeah.
You can nerd
What
pull
you
out.
Think?
Yeah.
What you think? Oh.
Oh no!
No, sir.
Yeah, you can
What
Minecraft
you
out.
think?
Ben, you are truly a formidable challenge.
Thank you so much. I'll do everything I can. We're gonna go until we're done. I got 215 more blocks. It's clean.
Oh
It's clean.
no! I did not spawn
What
that screamer in.
It's okay. I can punch the screamer. Hang on. Here we go. Oh, he's got me.
Wait, how did you die?
rocked to death. I got rocked.
Oh.
Rip. Hey,
All right.
listen. I'm real proud of my work there. That was pretty good.
That was very good. I
No,
never
wait,
got you
wait.
legitimately.
Thank
Wait,
you. Thank you very much.
I'm making a comeback.
Spawn
Don't
here,
you
my
worry.
backpack. Go grab my stuff.
I got no. I did it.
This is a different day. This is a different day. Ha 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 ha. There's so many things outside.
Jack, I'm back.
What is happening? And why is day 8 so bad right now?
Screamers from me shooting everything.
It makes sense.
Oh, Ben, you're back? All right, great.
Yep. There we go. Yep. There he is. Yeah. Oh, the zombies are getting me. It's bad. There you go. Yeah. And then just a little.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Ah. Okay. All right.
right.
Fine.
Shall we call it there, gentlemen?
I mean,
Yeah,
listen, I'm out of the hole, so yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do something fun. Where I'm just gonna.
ahead.
Bye,
If you
everyone.
can stand by the door of the trader, you're gonna see a little fun Easter egg momentarily.
Okay, give me a second. I gotta get over there. Both of my legs are broken and I'm dying.
All right.
It's
I'm
right.
there.
I'm getting there.
Not
I
for
see
long.
It. I see it. No. It's looking good.
Let me know when you can see the trader.
I
I'm
am
at
on the
the
front
door.
doors of the traders, and there's zombies
I
everywhere.
can see it.
Just wait for it.
Yeah. Cop spits on me and I'm down.
Oh, that's it
Lines.
for me.
Are you intentionally bringing that zombie to the function?
Bonk.
Sure. Behind you, Drew.
Thank you.
What are we
Oh my
Looking
god.
for here.
Oh, it was me falling
Oh.
out of the sky and killing myself.
Oh, okay.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
I was dead.
Here, I'll do
spectacular
it. I'll do
time,
it
no
again.
notes.
I'll do it again. Hang on, stand
Please
by.
do.
It'll be
Yeah.
if you look at the base,
Sure.
just look south.
Which one?
Yep.
Oh, there he goes. There
we
he
go.
is.
There we go.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I like how you have the mustache.
Thank you.
It's
been in
good.
the game.
There's an intentional design choice.
I like it. Yeah.
It's branding.
All right, gentlemen. I'm going to end the stream there.
That's
Okay.
so fair.
That's
Okay.
a great idea.
Chat, thank you for stopping by.
everyone.
Mods, thank you for moderating an extremely long stream. Mods Night, Vamp Dances Musical Ninja. Appreciate it, guys. We're back Thursday night.
Amazing humans.
Probably with more Resident Evil. So we will see you guys next time. Good night, and be good. Good night.